What's up, everyone? So happy to see you all in person. My man in the back with the camera, I'm good to go if you're good to go. We're going to start off talking all about branding, but before we do so, I have a warning for everyone here that today's workshop will probably make you smarter than 4 out of the 5 marketing gurus that you will see online, those self-proclaimed experts who might just be snake oil salesmen. You're just going to get just the facts from us, from all of our experiences, John had said. So I am Stephen Bicanza. I'm a brand consultant. I'm an educator. I'm an adjunct at Drexel University, as well as the European Institute of Design in Milano, Italy, where I teach once a year. There's my LinkedIn. There's my Twitter. I expect a ton of new connections, hopefully afterwards. And I am also privileged to be one of the first graduating classes in Marty Neumeier's Brand Architect program. It's he's a world-renowned brander that's worked with Apple and Steve Jobs and everyone. And so always a student, even though I am also sometimes a teacher. Oh, there we go. I also have a newsletter that goes out once a week entitled All About Branding. And so there's a QR code there. If anyone wants to scan it, I will bring it back up afterwards. But every week I'm just dissecting a branding topic, or I'm talking about Super Bowl ads, or I'm talking about why this brand made a big faux pas on social media and why that actually might be a good thing for your brand. So part humor, part great content, all me. So my goal today, everyone, is number one is I'm going to show you actual steps that you can implement today, not some kind of theoretical crap that's going to take you years to understand. I'm going to give you just the facts with now, over 15 years experience in building brands, working with agencies, working with startups, working with nonprofits, really helping brands to outmaneuver their competition. And I am not here to bore you with buzzwords. I will let my colleagues do that in their presentations. Joking, I probably will have a couple buzzwords out there, unfortunately. Such is the nature. But I am specifically going to be talking about, number one, what is your brand strategy and how does it help you outmaneuver your competition? And the second topic is how your brand and understanding your brand and the strategy behind it can optimize all of your marketing touch points. So the marketing touch points that John and Sheldon talk about really will be successful if you know what your foundation is and you understand what your brand is. And then finally, how to budget and engage on a branding agency or a brand refresh. So just where do you start when you start thinking about engaging with a branding agency? Because like John said, there's no shortage of resources out there. Some are better than the others. So I'm going to give you some insights. So let's go in and let's just take a quick step back and talk about branding and the power of branding. And really, it could be shown with just one photo, the power of branding. And this is it. Same pair of shoes from the same manufacturer, the same number of holes for the shoelaces. And I guarantee the shoelaces are the same. Both have rubber soles, but one has a 10x multiple in price. And that is all because of that huge pink swoosh on there. Because of that Nike sign, because of that Nike logo. And that's how they're able to demand the price that they do. And in the end, that's really what the power of branding is. And this is something I'm going to continue to come back to today, is this idea of getting more people to buy more things at a higher price for a longer time. That's what we want everyone to do. That's what business is. We want customers for the long term, not just a one sale. We want lifetime. So let's break down some branding misconceptions. And if any of you were on my weekly newsletter, you would see that I talked about this yesterday. Because knowing that I was coming here today, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna recycle this content because this is so good. Number one, the biggest branding misconception out there is branding is not your logo. Wah, wah. Everyone thinks that branding is, oh, it's your logo. And so many times people come up to me, Stephen, I need branding help. I need a new logo. But oftentimes, as we dissect the brand and we really find out, everything that's behind it, the foundational aspects, the brand DNA, perhaps your logo is not the issue. It's your messaging, or it's how you are talking to your audience, or perhaps it's the fact that you don't even know who your audience is. So in the process of branding, more often than not, of course we're going to touch the logo. Of course we're going to look at your design, but it's going to come further down the process. It's not the first thing we tackle because there's so much that's going to influence that logo and your design. The second big misconception is your products do not define your brand. Apple is so much more than AirPods and an iPhone and an iMac or a MacBook Pro. It's a lifestyle. It's a way to think about. It's a call to action that Apple puts out there. Too many times I think brands are looking to define themselves by their products, but if you do branding right and you're constantly gathering insights from your audience is going to tell you the products to design and the products that they want to buy from you. So if you're only defining your brand based on your product, you might be missing out on a whole lot of revenue and a whole couple new SKUs to push out to your audience or service lines. Next is branding is not your price. Years ago, 12, 13 years ago, I was working with one of those $9.99 gyms in Southern California. And they were steadfast. They were adamant. We're the $9.99 gym. We only want to position ourselves as the $9.99 gym. And we had to have a couple hard conversations. Like, what happens when, inflation hits, like it has, right? And what happens when minimum wage goes up or your footprint cost goes up, right? Your cost per square foot. What happens when all these environmental or financial factors come into play? And what happens if you do a really good job listening to your audience and your audience tells you that they really want higher end services, yet you've done all this work and spent all this money on positioning yourselves as the $9.99 gym? So we recommended to them, focus on affordability, focus on that, but don't make that to be everything. That is not your brand position. That is not your brand. Price is in flux. And it's a hard battle to win on pricing often when that's the only thing from a feature and benefit standpoint that you have out there. So it's always very cautious when brands put all their eggs into the position of their price. Next, branding is not advertising. This is a big one. Advertising has one sole purpose, to get you to buy something or to perform an action. And John and Sheldon are going to talk about that later on. But too many brands think, we have an ad campaign and that's our whole brand and that's everything that we stand for. But really, it should be very singular focused. Your advertising should almost be looked at like a silo. It's meant to do one specific action. It's meant to get someone to convert. But if you go in there with the mentality that advertising is your brand, you have it backwards. Now you're just pushing out messages that are just transactional or not building up a tribe. You're not building up your audience base. Next, and how about this one? Branding is not your website. Even Amazon is more than just their website these days. Amazon stands for convenience, and Amazon was a lifesaver during COVID. Amazon is draining my bank account because my wife is home shopping. Amazon is all these things, so much more than a website. It's cloud computing. It's Hey Alexa. It's all these things now. Amazon has become a fabric of our society. So much more than a website. And I would even say if you were just an e-commerce seller on Shopify, that your brand is a lot more than that. Your brand is, again, we're going to get to that in a bit, but it's what your audience says it is. It's all about the customer. And finally, branding is not your tagline. This is a big one. And some in my circle, some other branders might even argue that taglines are irrelevant and antiquated these days because we live in an age of personalization. A tagline for you, miss, is different than a tagline for you because we all have different wants and needs as customers. And we have this opportunity of personalization and to personalize messages. So I would argue and say perhaps brands are better served pushing out true lines or living lines. And when I say that, just think about the best headlines on your website that get people to understand what this section of content is. Like those are really powerful because if you can collect a library of those terms, then now we can really message on a one-to-one level as opposed to the one-to-many, which back in the Don Draper days of the 1950s, that was all you had. You had one opportunity, one message, and one ad in one magazine. So you had to make it as broad as possible, macro. But now we're going micro. Amazing. So what the hell is a brand then, Stephen? You told us everything it isn't. So what is it really? It is what your prospect thinks of when he or she hears your brand name. Intangible. I'm going to take it even further. My mentor, Marty Neumeier, brilliantly puts it, it is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. So I'm just going to let that one sit and take a quick sip. Marty has worked with the best of the best, and he's done an amazing job at distilling the complexities behind brand into seemingly simple statements. And I'm going to reference him a lot. Like I said, I'm a student of his, and he's a mentor of mine, and I very much subscribe to his school of thought when it comes to branding. So we need to all understand that brands are defined by the individual. That's all of you. We're all customers, we're all individuals, we're all consumers. Not a parent company, a hashtag, a market trend, a fad. Those do not define brands. If anything, you want to stay away from all those shiny, bright new objects and stick to your strategy, stick to what you know. Remember, everyone, and this is very important, a brand is not what you say it is as a business owner. A brand is what they say it is, them being your audience. All right, Stephen, so you showed us what a brand isn't, and then you showed us what a brand is, but what is this hot topic that I'm hearing everywhere about what's a brand strategy? Well, a brand strategy is this long-term plan to outmaneuver your competition through radical differentiation. And I'm bringing that word radical into this because we can't just be a little bit different. We need to be very different. We need to be disruptive different. Because at the end of the day, we want to get more people to buy more stuff for more years at a higher price. And this is how you have longevity. This is right here. If you know your audience and you know your brand, you can get them to do this. Apple does it. I mean, I bought how many Apple computers, how many Apple cell phones, everything Apple puts out there. I don't care how much it costs. I could buy a dongle for $75 and feel happy for myself because I'm within the Apple family. Because they've gotten me to buy more stuff from them at a higher price for the last 15 years because they've just focused on the customer and they focused on the experience of the customer. And this is what, no matter what size business you're in, a small business with barely any revenue to millions of dollars to billions of dollars, this is what our goal should be always, thinking about this. So you achieve this to this word differentiation. We need to be different. There's so much clutter out there with content. Sheldon's going to demystify it in a little bit, and so is John. But there's too much noise out there between dealing with the news and pandemics and wars and inflation and gas prices and whatever the hell else out there. We need to be different. There's too much choice out there. The bias is that there's a choice bias where it's the Netflix effect. Honestly, it's what it's called. When you have too many choices, you sit there and you scroll for a half hour, not getting anywhere because there's just too many choices. So how do you become the choice brand? You got to stick out. You got to be different. So differentiation is this process of establishing a unique market position to increase profit and avoid being commoditized. That's what we really want to do, right? We want to increase our profits while continuing to be different. And if we're not, we're going to get lumped into this term of clutter. Brand clutter, media clutter, product clutter, content clutter, social clutter, noise, noise, noise. And as human beings, our brains are meant to act as filters to protect us from all this information, right? Our brain is constantly trying, from a psychological perspective, to see what's the easiest thing here. There's so much noise. I need to simplify it. I need to be easy. We are predisposed, I can't even say that word right now, to hardwire to notice what's different, right? And when we see different, we're attracted to different. That's why I wear a hat. No one else is here wearing a hat. I'm wearing a hat. Just to be a little bit different, except for my man over there with the Phillies hat on. So in branding and design, in my world, we address differentiation through contrast. And contrast can be a really powerful thing in your business, right? Big versus small, huge contrast right there. Light versus dark, thick versus thin, fast versus slow, right? These contrasts is what we really want to hone in on as a business on your strategy. Where are these contrast points that we can get our audience to, hey, just give us a second take, to look at us, to notice us a little further. Because brand strategy, like I was saying, it comes down to differentiation. The more contrast between the brands, the easier it is to choose. If everyone is zigging and we're zagging, eyeballs are going to come on us because we're not following the crowd. We're doing our own thing. We're carving our own way. And your audience is going to reward you with that by buying more things from you at a higher price for a longer time, and you're going to win. Like I say, it's better to be number one in something than to be number three in a lot of things. You don't remember number three. Right? Who's the third most popular computer manufacturer? I don't know. Who's the third most popular cell phone manufacturer? Well, we know Apple's number one, probably Samsung's number two. Who do you think number three is?
Huawei.
What was that?
Huawei.
Who?
Huawei.
Yeah, exactly. Who cares? So how is marketing impacted by your brand? That sucks. First off, marketing today is really less about features and benefits, right? Everyone's shoving features and benefits down everyone's throat, left and right. They're on comparison charts on your website. They're in sales brochures. Your field reps are just shoving features and benefits. But today, it's really more about creating tribes. Right? Creating this tribal identity that your brand can nurture. And when I use the term tribes, I'm talking about a group of people who not only share the same interests, but they talk to each other. And hey, in the age of the internet and social media, that's super powerful with Facebook groups and Telegram and WhatsApp and all these communication platforms, Discord, you name it, right? When you can get a group of people together talking about the same topic, that brand has created a tribe. And I use Apple all the time. I'm part of their tribe. You could hate Apple, but you're damn well aware of it. You know, you damn well know what they provide and the value out there. And I'm 100% in their tribe. I'm also in the Jeep tribe. I love Jeeps. I have 2 of them. And, you know, I do the Jeep wave when I go down, even though I don't have a Wrangler. My wife tells me, you can't do that. Only people who have Jeep Wranglers can do the wave. I'm like, no. I want to do the wave. So I do it, and sometimes I get a wave back, but most of the time I don't. Because customers don't buy brands anymore, everyone, they join them. See Harley Davidson over here. They may not be the best motorcycle out there. Some might say Ducati is the best motorcycle, or Honda, or whoever, Yamaha, whatever it is. But this tribe is ride or die. Literally. Who here is a Harley rider? Anyone here have a Harley? Well, if you did, what's the first rule of joining that tribe? You got to own a Harley. You got to buy into it, right? And Harley's very good at getting you to buy more things at a higher price for a longer period of time. That's why Harley riders, again, are ride or die. Literally. They have joined that tribe. They have joined that brand, and they love it. And that's what we all need to strive to do in our businesses, is create a tribe. And we don't need a tribe of 1 million. We don't need a tribe of, even 10,000. A tribe could be 100 people. You can have 100 solid customers that buy anything you put out there, and you can make a great living. And I see it. It's possible. Because what really matters today is that word matters. Mattering is the new marketing. If you can matter to your audience, you are going to win over your audience. They're going to think about you. They're going to follow you. Your website's going to be a destination, right? It's all about mattering to them. Because if you could steal just a little bit of that heart and mind share, ding, 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 you are winning. You're winning them over. Because what you don't want to be is this, right? So I'm going to ask you, and we're going to have a little bit of a serious talk over here, but is this how your customers see you? Do they see you as the blurry brand? Do they see you as, oh yeah, case in point, I'm driving on the highway coming over here, and I passed like a little mini truck. And on the truck had a company called New Era. And I'm a baseball guy. I was like, New Era, the hat company? Oh, that's kind of cool. So I drove up next to the guys. This has seriously happened. And I saw the logo, and it looked like the Singular logo from the cell phone company back in the day. I got here super early, and as I drove by, I actually yelled to the driver. The windows were up, right? But I was like, come on, you guys could be better than that. Your name isn't different, and that logo is Singular's logo from 15 years ago. Funny enough, their office location is right behind here. And as I was driving in, I looked and I was like, shut the hell up. A whole fleet of New Era technology or whatever it is, trucks were there. I actually thought about just popping in and having them invite them here so they can see this, so I can tell them that, perhaps their customers see them like this. So if your customers are seeing you like this, you're kind of out of focus. So let's take the focus test. And this is something that we all can do right here. 3 simple questions I ask every one of my clients. If I'm consulting them, if I'm helping them find a branding agency, no matter how, any conversation, I'm asking these same 3 questions. The first question is, who are you? Simple enough, right? But what's the source of your passion and purpose? Why did you start the business? Why are you doing what you're doing? Simon Sinek has that great TED Talk from 20 years ago at this point called The Power of Why. I'm going to bring that up all the time. Why do you do what you do? And what do you do for that matter? Do you even know what you do? Branding is very much a game of categories, right? We need to know what category we're in. Because the category you think that your business is in may not be the category your audience thinks your business is in. And now you're just having 2 conflicting opinions. And the third question is, why does it matter? Why should anyone care that your business exists? And these are, seemingly simple questions, but they guarantee they're a lot harder to answer than you think. Because in brand building, again, mattering is more important than marketing. If you can matter, then the marketing you put out there will be successful. The marketing you put out there will be on budget. Because if you don't matter, you're going to be spending a lot of money on this tactic and this tactic and this tactic, never truly understanding what makes your company or brand matter to its customers. Because unless you have compelling answers to all those questions, your brand strategy needs more focus. All right, so you got me. I think I need some branding help. Where do I start? Well, I think first we need to understand that there's really 2 big types of agency dynamics, and I'm sure John might get into more of this, but from the branding side, you got the generalist, one-stop shop. We do everything. Come on in. We open the doors. Whatever you need, I got what you need. So I hear that, my next question is, great, so what don't you do well, right? Because you cannot do everything really good. And in fact, do you even know how to do everything, or are you just selling me something that you think I need and then finding it on the back end off of Fiverr, Upwork, or, your cousin down the street who happens to do social media and is in college? So you got the generalist one-stop shop, but then you got a little bit more of the specialist brand agency. So they're coming in, they're setting your strategy, they're helping you identify where to place those bets, where to place those marketing investments. And they may have the relationships to say, hey, let's bring in a company that just focuses on conference design, or that focuses just on content, or that focuses on web design. And they're very authentic and upfront about it by saying, listen, we don't do everything. You don't want someone that does everything. You want those specialist shops that can come in and do one or two things really, really well. Because that's how you move the needle. That's how you connect to your audience. There's a famous quote out there, right? If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, shit, imagine waiting until you hire an amateur or a generic jack of all trade agency. Because you'll probably have to hire that amateur over and over and over and over again. And guess what the amateur just did? They got you to pay a higher price for something over and over and over again. And you don't want that, right? You want to do it right the first time. I often would, years ago, I have my Stevenisms, right? I just have like these, these phrases I like to push out there. John probably knows half of them. But you only have one opportunity to make a first and lasting impression, right, with your audience. And so if you're going out of the gate, hire that professional, hire those individuals that are truly specialized so you can make that first impression very much a lasting one. Okay, so we have gotten to the end of my little rant over here. I have some parting words, and there's really two of them that I would, if you take nothing else from me away from today, I hope you take this away. Number one, your brand strategy is this long-term plan to outmaneuver your competition through radical differentiation. And I want you to remember that radical part, right? It's gotta be different. It has to be. Because if it is, then you get more people to buy more stuff for more years at a higher price. And who doesn't want that? Because if you can achieve that, everyone, guess what? Bravo, you're winners. And that concludes my All About Branding presentation. Again, my email is up there. I got business cards. I'm going to be hanging around. My LinkedIn, my Twitter. If you want to join my newsletter, feel free to do so. I hope that QR code works. QR codes are back, right? In case you did not know, they were here, they left, they came back. They made the resurgence. So good on the QR code inventor. So thanks, everyone. Next up will be John.
So, quick disclaimer that I mentioned this is my first time presenting live in 2 years, which I'm very excited about. We've done plenty of other live presentations prior to that, but it's been some time. And I wanted to kind of start the new decade, frankly, with something fresh. So this is my first time doing this presentation, which I'm super excited about. But it also means that I'll probably stumble over some things. There will probably be typos. So fair warning there. Also, my deck is guaranteed to be much less pretty than Steven's because, after all, he's the branding guy. It's kind of a tough act to follow. So I wanted to start with this concept of a picture being worth 1,000 words. I didn't intend to start here, but as I started to build out the presentation and where this was really headed, I realized that that's kind of the theme. That a picture can be worth 1,000 words. And what I want to leave you with today is really one picture that should help you tremendously as you start to kind of ideate and think through how to plan your overarching approach to marketing, your overarching marketing strategy. One picture. Because what I found is that over 15 years in marketing and 8 years at TAG, and probably at this point having talked to thousands of businesses about marketing strategy, I found myself kind of coming back to a lot of the same core concepts, the same core premises over and over again. And I thought to myself, geez, if I could just consolidate these into one general framework, go a long way in helping a lot of businesses, make a lot of smart decisions with their marketing. And so that's what I want to do here for you today. Sound good? Yes. All right, so right message, right person, right time. It's often been said that great marketing is these things, getting the right message in front of the right person at the right time. But how exactly do we do that, right? And so I'm going to tackle each one of these in some way throughout here. And so let's start with, actually from the ground up, let's start with time. So many of you are probably familiar with this concept of the marketing funnel, though all of you may not, so I had to start here, of course. Show of hands, how many of you are familiar with this concept of the marketing funnel, sales funnel? Okay, great. See, half the room actually did not raise their hand, and so that's why I want to make sure I started here. So the general premise of the marketing funnel is that individuals or buyers go through a certain decision-making process as they decide whether or not to buy anything, right? At first, they may not even be aware of your company, nor may they be aware that they have a problem that they need to solve. So at some point, they decide, you know, I've got a situation I want to resolve in one way or another, and there's this brand that I think does that. Are they a good fit for me? And then they naturally go through this process, which I think is fairly self-explanatory, of you know, being interested in different solutions, weighing their options, and then eventually coming to a point of taking an action. And so it's our job as marketers to move people through this process. And that was a picture I took from the internet. I wanted to add that really there is actually an area at the bottom of the funnel, and that is retention that is not to be ignored. So not only do we want to move people through this sales funnel or buyer's journey, but after conversion, we also want to be thinking through ways to market to them to keep them as customers and retain them. Okay, so this is the concept of the marketing funnel. And really, I think it's good to build upon this concept and express this idea that, you know, this is a process of kind of warming people up to your brand, building trust, building credibility, making sure that they start to see you as a viable solution to solve their problem. And again, post-conversion, you want them to have a lot of brand affinity, to love you, and that's how you really retain them. Okay, so I've taken this core concept and expanded it just a little bit. Okay, and then kind of a quick footnote here because it comes up a lot. You'll often hear this term buyer's journey, which was coined by HubSpot, one of the preeminent marketing CRM automation platforms on the market. They are very clever marketers, and they found a way to take this age-old concept of the sales funnel, turn it on its side, rename it the buyer's journey, and voila. Now they are the ones that kind of coined this expression, but in reality, it's more or less the same thing. You'll hear these terms, the sales funnel, the buyer's journey, used pretty interchangeably. But there is actually, while we're on the subject, kind of one key difference I like to mention. So anybody want to take a guess what that difference is between the sales funnel and the buyer's journey? Right, what's the difference, right? The difference is actually perspective, right? The sales funnel is your perspective, the process that you as the marketer want to move people through, right? It's your funnel. You're trying to bring your potential customers to a point of conversion. But the buyer's journey is their mindset. It's about what matters to them and the process that they're going through. So nuanced, but something to keep in mind. Okay, so we got the funnel concept. For a lot of this isn't new. For half of the room, apparently it is. Keep this in mind. This is our first kind of foundational framework. Key, by the way. I mean, this is, the funnel, quickly, is an age-old concept that's been in the textbooks for years and is still just as relevant now as it was when it first started being discussed, I don't know, 20 years ago. Okay, second core concept, and I find this one to be not discussed nearly as much as it should be. And that is this concept of 3 types of marketing media: paid media, earned media, and owned media. Okay? Paid media, earned media, and owned media. And the general idea is this, that all types of marketing, any type of marketing you can think of, more or less falls into one of these 3 buckets. It's either paid type of marketing, an earned type of marketing, or it's something that you owned, an owned asset that you use to market. Okay? And so quickly, paid media would be, you know, any type of paid advertising that gives you guaranteed visibility. So search ads, social ads, native ads, display ads, radio ads, any type of ads are paid media, right? Earned media is just what it sounds like. It's visibility that you earn through doing things right or having a strong brand, right? So PR is your classic earned media, right? That is a third party giving you coverage, featuring you. You earn that. And that word of mouth is kind of the age-old earned media and really as good as it gets. And then I like to put SEO in this bucket for reasons that I'll get into in a bit. But SEO, really, if we're not familiar, that's search engine optimization. That is this process of moving up the search engine rankings, the things you do to move the way up. Well, the search engine rankings, you don't own them, you don't control them, Google does, and you, as I said, earn your way up. So more on SEO as an earned media vehicle in a bit. And then, of course, your owned media, which is, again, any type of marketing asset that you make, maintain, or own that you have control of to convey your marketing message, your website, your content, blog, social media, profiles, etc. Okay? So paid, earned, and owned. And they say when something kind of overlaps, where it's both kind of like paid and earned, I'll get into that in a bit, they call that converged. But it's not really important for the purposes of today's discussion, although I'll probably mention again at some point. But just to cover my bases, when there's overlap, they call that converged. Okay, how many people in this room are familiar with this concept or have come across this before? Okay, less than half the room. All right, so I've said this many times, as cheesy as it is, what good is a billboard on the moon? It's completely useless, right? A billboard on the moon is useless. Why? Because nobody's going to see it, except for the fact that it would be an amazing PR stunt, and in that case, then probably everybody would see it, and then it would be amazing. But that aside, right, if you don't get news coverage, that billboard on the moon is completely useless, right? Why? So because your owned media is only as good as your ability to put eyeballs on it. Let me say that again. Your owned media is only as good or as useful as your ability to get targeted visitors or eyeballs to it. Okay, so your website, your social, your email list, if you can't get people to it, it's not doing you any good. And this is, as simple of a point as this is, it actually is really important when you start thinking through taking your limited marketing budget and how you want to allocate it. Right? Because we talk about the importance of brand, and you better believe I'm a believer, and you're going to convey that through your website primarily, or first and foremost, I should say. But that investment in brand and website is only going to do you any good if you can get people there, right? And so that's where paid and earned media come in, and that these two broader buckets of marketing activity are the vehicles by which you get eyeballs to that precious owned media. Okay? Now, paid and earned media do not convert customers. Your brand converts customers, and your brand is a known asset. So there's a yin and yang here. Okay? In fact, this whole presentation is kind of built on this premise of a yin and yang. There's always pros and cons. There's always a delicate balance. I often get asked, the question of something like, John, what's a better tactic, paid search ads or organic SEO? Well, they all have pros and cons, and I'll be getting into those in a bit. It's not a matter of better or worse. It depends on your specific situation and what it is you're ready to sign up for in terms of the cons, essentially. Like what can you stomach? More on that in a bit. Okay? So, here is taking this concept of paid and earned media, and now, you see what I'm doing here? Kind of layering it on that concept of the funnel. So simple and yet huge, right? Your paid and earned media are the initial vehicles by which you drive eyeballs and traffic to these owned assets that you control, okay? Now, taking that a step further, remember that funnel? I added a layer of like a heat map to it, essentially, this idea of warming a potential buyer up. Well, you can start to think of it this way as people start off as strangers, potential customers start off as strangers. We use paid and earned media to start to warm them up, and then our owned media does a lot of the heavy lifting to push through our marketing message, push through our brand, really help people understand who we are and what we're about and why we're different. It's funny, I didn't know Stephen was going to lean into differentiation. I'm about to do the same thing. Okay, so Facebook told me you saw my message, now you have to reply. I've been using this stupid GIF in the 8+ years I've been teaching a tag, and I just can't get away from it. And the reason I stuck it in this time is because, is it enough to serve an ad and drive someone to your website and expect them to convert? Obviously not, right? Just like if you have a conversation with this guy, is that a blessing for him to call you later on that night? Right? Definitely not, right? So one touch is not enough to get anyone interested enough to actually convert with your brand. Typically, there are exceptions. Okay? Which leads us to an important concept number 2. What is lead nurturing, this concept of lead nurturing? So lead nurturing, a popular term that us marketers throw around regularly, but really it's a very simple concept. This idea that we need to warm up potential buyers. We need to have multiple touch points that build trust, and that is lead nurturing, ultimately to a point of conversion. And so put another way, you remember that funnel. This idea of moving people through that funnel is what we call lead nurturing. But how do you do that, and what are the tools? Okay? Well, it's funny, we're all familiar with email marketing, SMS marketing, retargeting ads, and social media. But have you realized before that these are your tools? This is your toolkit to lead nurture? Right? Simple point, so important. Let me just say that again. If one touch of your brand isn't enough to typically convert buyers, at least not on a consistent basis, and so the playbook, the strategy, is to lead nurture and have multiple touch points, what are our tools by which to do it? There actually aren't that many. This is kind of it in a nutshell. These are our mechanisms by which we stay in touch and lead nurture. So, when your boss says to you, or when you challenge yourself on, do I really need to do this social media stuff? Is it really that valuable? Well, maybe instead of looking at it as a direct ROI, I put up a Facebook post, I'm gonna get a sale, right? No, because that's not the way this tool is utilized. Social media is the mechanism by which you create multiple touch points with prospective buyers and build trust, because trust is key. Okay? And there is kind of a bonus here, and that is you can also become a publisher, right? By becoming a publisher, a podcaster, having a YouTube channel, for example, that's another way we can lead nurture. But in a way, that's social media, depending on how you define social media. Okay? By the way, about this social media thing, okay? Look at this. Email, one-way communication. SMS, one-way communication. Retargeting ads, one-way communication. Social media, two-way communication. Not only that, but it's permission-based, which is huge. People opt into it, right? People opt into your email and SMS, they don't opt into retargeting ads. But it's also native. Another buzzword in marketing, but it has an important connotation. It means that native is best defined as meaning it blends into your natural experience. Again, you've opted into this communication. You chose to be on Facebook anyway. You've opted into this page. Social media is powerful because it's native. It can be long form, right? It gives you a lot of opportunity to tell your story, convey your message, differentiate, build trust, right? And it ties in elements of social proof and third-party validation. If you're getting engagement, right, you're getting comments, you really crack that nut, that can be super powerful because, as we'll hopefully have time to get to later, social proof is huge. I think I'm good on time. Right? It also gives you room to show off. Okay, so if you start to see what I'm doing here, I'm taking that concept of the funnel and I'm evolving it. And I've layered on this concept of paid, earned, and owned media to have you kind of conceptualize the toolbox through which you're going to start to move people through the funnel, right? So now what I've done is I've taken that concept, right, of, again, take strangers, make them aware of you through paid and earned media, and then start to drive them to your owned media. Here's your nurturing toolkit, remember that? And then CRM now enters the equation, and this is just this idea that if you don't have a database, which is essentially your CRM, with which to segment and nurture, you're going to be very ineffective in your lead nurturing, okay? So you can start to think through how these different marketing channels or tactics, depending on how you look at it, all kind of come together into a cohesive plan. Now, in reality, it's not as though we just use paid and earned media at the beginning, right? We use them throughout. And so I've engineered the picture a little bit more to reflect this ongoing paid and earned media effort, which consistently drives people into your, hopefully, CRM, which is how you're lead capturing, and then you're consistently nurturing them through these tools, and then constantly kind of getting them to the website, which is your point of conversion, usually, not always. Could be your Amazon, or you can sell directly through Facebook these days and things like that. Okay, now let's evolve the concept a little bit more. Okay, so now let's take paid earned media and chart them on this X and Y axis and look at the pros and cons. And this is where it really should be a bit of an aha. So what's interesting about paid media, again, anywhere you can simply pay and get visibility through an ad, versus earned media, which is just that visibility you earn through third parties, is that the pros and cons are almost precisely opposites or diametrically opposed, to use some fancy terminology, right? So paid media has a lot of great benefits, right? Again, ads, social ads, search ads, it's highly measurable and easy to quantify. If anybody's ever looked into SEO or PR, what do you always hear? Right? Really hard to measure, really hard to quantify, a lot of hemming and hawing about that, not with paid media. Guaranteed visibility. You want to start promoting your business to hundreds or thousands of people immediately, Facebook can do that for you. Google can do that for you, and they can do it for you overnight, right? High degree of control. The time you run the ads, who sees them in terms of geo-targeting, keyword targeting as it relates to search ads, which is super powerful. The fact that you can specifically target somebody on some specific term that they punch into Google, it's extremely valuable. And in fact, that's lost on a lot of people, as simple as it is. It's easy to run lots of controlled tests. And it's inexpensive to start up these tactics compared to some of the other stuff, generally speaking, okay? You might look at this and you go, wow, measurable, quantifiable, guaranteed visibility, high degree of control, easy to run lots of tests. Like, where's the downside? Is there even a downside? Yes, right? First and foremost, and perhaps most importantly, you get no or a debatable amount of trust. You're just an advertiser, right? Your visibility that you got is rented. Right? Once you stop pumping ads into the Google, Facebook machine, your visibility is gone, right? And it's easily duplicatable by any competitor. As long as they have the same budget as you, then anybody can compete and do the exact same thing. How many of you would say that you are a small business versus mid-size or enterprise? Okay, right. Most people in this room. So you don't want to be playing the budget game, right? Okay, all right, and so this is why earned media is valuable, right? Because earned media, again, we'll define that as visibility, coverage, recognition by a third party, builds trust, and trust is huge. The results are theoretically permanent, and by that I mean if you got yourself featured on Forbes or Entrepreneur, while that article may fall into the archives, if you screenshot it or save the link, you have that forever. Right? Maybe the link might come down, but you can screenshot it. You can always say, I was on Entrepreneur. Nobody can ever take that away from you, right? It also builds a moat, which is classic terminology to mean it creates a division between you and everybody else that's hard to replicate. Again, if you're the one that was featured on numerous publications, on TV, whatever it is, you've been on 50 podcasts, nobody can ever take that away from you. And you use that to differentiate on trust. Now on the flip side, again, as I said, almost directly diametrically opposed, harder to measure, much less guaranteed, or harder to control, may or may not be quick, assume it's not, and it's expensive, at least compared to getting ads up on Facebook, right? $50 or whatever, you got ads on Facebook. You're not getting into Forbes for $50, I'll tell you that right now. All right, this is a super ugly slide. Steven, I need your help after the presentation, all right?
Taking notes.
All right. While ugly, hopefully it's effective. Because in reality, it's not as though it's this clear division of black and white, paid ads are just this, and always this, and earned media is just that and always that. It kind of depends on which specific vehicle we're talking about and where it falls on the spectrum, okay? And if I were to distill this whole concept, if I had to distill it into just 2 words, it would kind of be control and trust. Right? As I mentioned, there's other things beyond control and trust, like the ability to run lots of tests or inexpensive costs on balance. One's more costly than the other typically. But if I had to distill it down to the least common denominator, the most important takeaway for today, it's the idea of control versus trust. And you're always going to have to sacrifice one or the other. So, let's evolve the concept a little bit further. Now we've married the funnel with the idea of the different types of media, and now we've added this spectrum. I did my best to, use the gradient tint in the shapes in PowerPoint. Oh my God, it's like an hour-long process to make this happen. But anyway, you got this idea now of this gradient scale of trust. Depending on what type of marketing activity you're doing, you have to think of it in terms of what's more important to me right now based on my budget and objectives. Is it control or is it earning trust? Because you're gonna have to sacrifice one or the other. Okay? Now, oh boy. Quick kind of sidebar to talk about B2B versus B2C. I could probably do an hour or 2 on this alone. But if I were to think through how this picture changes between B2B and B2C, it would be as follows. I'm going to kind of go back and forth. I like to talk about B2C as having a smashed funnel. A smashed funnel where the top level awareness is really important, the bottom level retention is really important, and this idea of nurturing people through this long funnel, while true, is typically much quicker. Whereas with B2B, right, it's about more of a narrow reach. If we're trying to sell something for $10,000, $50,000, even $1,000, we need to be a little bit more intentional, a little bit more narrow with our reach. And that decision-making process is a fair amount longer. And the more expensive something is, the more complex the sale is, the more elongated and distinct the different segments of that buyer's journey or sales funnel are. So again, camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2. And it was at this point in my PowerPoint endeavors that I was like, man, this is a lot of design. I literally took a screenshot of myself at this point and was like, this is becoming a pain in the ass, but I'm gonna soldier through it, okay? All right. So, simple marketing concepts, when layered on top of each other, start to tell a very powerful story, don't they? And so the next simple but critical concept is this idea of segmentation. This idea that we don't speak to every one of our target personas the same. Right? We can't treat all of our buyers as though they have the same pain points, the same kind of mentality about what they're trying to solve and why. They have different needs, and our products or services can solve their different needs in different ways. Okay? They call these personas. Okay? And so this is where the right person comes into the equation. Right? The right time, that is, where are they in the funnel? The right person, that is the right kind of appeal to the right individual, and right message, which is not only implied, but we're going to talk more about that in a bit. And so actually, now let's think about it more like this. Right? Now you've got your paid earned media spectrum, you've got your classic sales funnel, you're thinking through the way your owned media is driving people through, but you're aware that the funnel is a little bit different depending on the individual. Okay? Here's just kind of a bonus takeaway, a great persona making worksheet provided by the folks at Digital Marketer. It's really good. I included it in the deck. Okay. All right. So I forget why I put this slide in again. So, all right. Oh, I know. Oops. All right. So we've got this idea of these different frameworks on top of each other. And if the funnel is the mechanism by which, the vehicle by which we look to move people through, right? What is the fuel for the vehicle? Well, you saw the next slide, so you see where this is going. Another marketing cliche. Content is king. But the content is the fuel by which you pull people through that funnel. I know, again, you've heard it a million times, it's nothing new, but without the content, you really have nothing, right? And so the content is what moves them through, okay? You know, so you drive people to your site through paid or earned media, or one of your own media properties, not necessarily just your site. You attempt to collect some information about them in your CRM so that you can remarket to them. Your toolkit for remarketing is your social, email, SMS, or you're a publisher, right? That's represented here. You're constantly putting out new content to nurture those buyers, and that's how you ultimately get to a point of conversion. Okay. Now, regarding the message. So a lot of the message I think Stephen covered really well in his presentation, but I'm going to give you a slightly different angle on it after I take this sip of water. Ooh, feeling like a camel up here, I'm so parched. All right. So, this idea of rational versus emotional appeal, okay? Now, you might not be able to see this, but what this is showing you is that the left brain tends to make decisions, buying decisions based on things like quality or a concept of perceived quality, availability and accessibility. Can I get this right now? How difficult is this going to be? Price, rational decision making. Whereas the right brain is said to make decisions that relate to, you know, essentially I'll summarize as trust, belief, you know, reputation, all of these types of things, okay? In truth, you want to be always thinking about how you can appeal to both sides. Most of us tend to lean into rational reasons why we're better, but emotional is not to be forgotten, okay? In fact, sometimes it's critical in order to have success. So there are three different types of considerations that I think can help dictate whether we should be leaning a little bit more into rational or a little bit more into emotional appeal. The first is market maturity. In a new market, that is, when you have a type of product or service that people don't really understand, let's say, for example, you're an agency matchmaker, right? Targeting rational appeal is going to help you, or you should lean a little bit more into that rational appeal in order to make very specific statements about why this can help you, why this is better than the other solutions that you are familiar with. Rational appeal is likely to work for you quite well. Conversely, in an older and more mature market, think for example, automotive, it's going to behoove you to lean a little bit heavier into emotional appeal. So why do you think in the Mercedes-Benz commercials they have them like slipping and sliding through the snow doing donuts, right? They're trying to evoke that emotion in you, the slick car, you're outdoors, you're doing figure eights in the snow. My 5-year-old loves Mercedes now because he thinks that when he gets one, he can drive around in the snow in figure eights. This isn't a rational appeal they're trying to make, it's an emotional one. In all seriousness, you can't do it like any of these things they show you in car commercials, but they're trying to evoke emotion. And part of the reason, a big part of the reason that they're leaning into that is because they're in a mature market. If they start talking about, in depth about, how the engine is faster or the leather of the seats is superior, and while they do mention these things, they know that at the end of the day, it's the emotional angle that's really going to get you. And that leads directly, this is very, very similar, into differentiation, which Stephen talked about, right? If you have a truly differentiated product or service, it obviously behooves you to take a real rational appeal and lean into why you're distinctly different and better. But when you're undifferentiated, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of folks in this room, there's a good chance you're not too differentiated yet, you better lean into that emotion, right? You better try to incite some level of emotional connection or, to be unfortunately, fear. And fear, unfortunately, is one of the big motivators of decision making. The classic example is insurance. We've all seen that guy, the Mayhem, right? Why do you think Mayhem is their entire, what do you call them, archetype or whatever? You know, their spokesperson, their mascot, there you go. Because they want you to be fearful that when something bad happens, you're not going to be covered. They're not getting into, like, you know, the dollars and cents difference between them and the other insurance companies or, you know, whatever it is. Then you've got the other appeal of insurance companies, which is to make you laugh. Geico commercials don't tell you anything about Geico other than how many years in business, and then they try to make you laugh. They want to create an emotional connection. And so what I'm trying to get at here is you're thinking through what message you want to put through that funnel and where you need to lean in. Well, you should be keeping in mind whether or not your market's mature, whether or not your product's differentiated, and then last but not least, the level of involvement in the decision making, right? If there's a high level of involvement required to purchase your product or service against competitors, then again, you can lean into rational appeal. But if it's low level, like a Reese's versus a Snickers, right, then it's about emotional appeal and emotional benefits. And for all these situations where you need to lean into emotional appeal because that's all you got, that's where you want to default to presentation number 1 by Stephen. Because to lean into just emotional appeal, you know, you're really fighting with one hand behind your back. You need to figure out how you are different, how you are unique in everything that he just covered. Okay. And so now adding one more and I think final layer to this picture is this idea of market maturity, differentiation, and involvement in the decision dictates how elongated, distinct, and important your funnel is versus that more smashed version of the funnel, which is about awareness, 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 emotion, 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 convert, retain, convert, retain. That mid-funnel, which still exists, is just less important the more mature your market is, undifferentiated you are, and low involvement decision your product or service is. And this, folks, is the picture that hopefully is worth 1,000 words. Because I probably put in, what, 50,000 just now? That was a lot of words. All right, how much more time we got?
5 minutes. Can you put that up this quick second?
This one? Oh, yes. theagencyguide.com/WCU. So now, keeping this in mind, this answers so many questions I get every day for 15 years in the business, right? Forget that slide. I mean, that slide's cool. You should check it out, but we don't need to talk about it right now. I have a small budget. Where should I start? Okay, small budget. You probably don't have the patience for a lot of earned media. And again, I put SEO in that bucket, and I love SEO, right? If you can't, you know, stomach not having guaranteed results that are fairly quick and you want everything quantified and measurable, you should be leaning on the paid media side of the equation. For better or worse, that's where you're going to be most satiated. On the other hand, if you can deal with waiting for results, not quite knowing how long it's going to take, not quite how effective it's going to be, but you really know you need to build trust and you want it, then you can lean into the earned media side of the equation. In truth, we always need a little bit of everything, right? Just so many questions answered by one graphic. I wish that slide wasn't in between. Sorry about that. So very similar question. Look, John, before I hire this agency, I need them to prove themselves very quickly. Where should I start? Same answer. You want quick results? You want to see your agency perform before you double down and give them that fat retainer? They really should be leaning into paid media for you. I'm not saying that the earned media is not important. I'm not saying that your brand's not important and you really shouldn't start there. But if your mindset as the buyer is, I need quick results or I ain't doing any more of this crap, then you're basically signing up for paid media. Because that's the only thing that's going to make you happy. Does the look of my website really matter or not? Yes, it all matters. But why does it matter? Because your website oftentimes is your primary point of conversion. Your website and the language on it is your primary point of differentiation. Your website and the content on it is your primary point of building trust, that and your other owned media. So yes, it's all important. You just need to understand within what context and framework. This context, this framework. Okay? Is all this branding stuff really worth it? Same answer. My industry is really crowded. Where should I start? We covered that, right? Crowded, undifferentiated. You either need to A, differentiate, or B, sell on emotion, right? You're undifferentiated. That means your funnel, if you're not going to differentiate and take the time through that, you're going to sell on emotion. That means your funnel is truncated. A little less about the mid-funnel, a little bit more about awareness, sparking emotion, and retaining, right? Do I really need to blog? Yes, okay, for different reasons. Now, I am not the guy, not emphasis on not, the guy that says you need to blog every day or every week or, even 5 times a month, even once a month. You should be blogging as often as you can produce something of value, is my feeling about blogging. But you need to be producing content, whether it's a blog or a YouTube channel. You need to produce content. Why? Anybody remember? Trust and to move people through that funnel. Your content, you need to be producing some type of content to do that. And on and on and on and on. I could have done 50 slides of bullet points of questions that can be answered by this picture that's hopefully worth 1,000 words. And I have a bonus round of slides. If we have time for it, otherwise, that will be it. Judges, do I have more time or should I wrap up there?
No. Take questions. Take questions, please.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Before questions, I want to show you one more piece of content. So this is the bonus round. Okay. Anybody know this guy or this book? Show of hands, anybody? Ooh, I'm so glad nobody raised their hand because that means I'm about to give a lot of people something really valuable.
Do you know that he just came out with a brand new version where he added a 7th?
So you know this book.
It's right now. Love it.
Is it amazing?
The most amazing.
Most amazing book.
Read this book.
That everybody needs to read this book. I'm not collecting a commission on that, I assure you. Right? So Robert Cialdini wrote a book called Influence. It's been around forever. Anybody that's in the field of psychology and wants to know how we can influence people needs to read this book. And what he found is that after studying, I think it was thousands of different businesses and marketers and advertisers and how it is these marketers and advertisers try to move people to a point of conversion, how they try to influence them. Really, you could take all of their tactics, everything they could come up with, and basically distill it down into 6 key areas, right? The first is if you can position as an authority, you can, let me take a step back. More specifically, the idea of the book or the premise is that us individuals, we unfortunately shortcut our decision making because long, complex decision making is hard. We're limited on time, and generally speaking, we don't want to do it if we don't have to. And so if, as advertisers and marketers understanding that, we're aware of these 6 key principles, we can play into the natural propensity for individuals to shortcut their decision making. Okay, and the first is authority. If you are seen or recognized as an authority, people will move quicker, right? This, I think, plays very strongly into branding, your messaging, but also that earned media. Remember that discussion of why in the heck would anybody invest in earned media when they can just throw up ads? Because you don't gain any trust as just an advertiser. You need to earn trust. And one of the ways to do that is through third parties validating you as an authority. So that's number 1. 2 is consistency, essentially consistency of your message, consistency of your look and feel, consistency of everything you do. The more consistent, the more people will believe what it is you're saying and selling. Scarcity is the very simple idea of act now, time is running out. Yeah, that's scarcity, and as cheesy as it is, it works. Reciprocity is huge. Reciprocity is way underutilized. It's this idea of what can you give for free, because we are wired at some level to feel the desire to reciprocate. So the more value somebody gives you at no cost or at an inexpensive cost, the more we like them and we want to do business with them, i.e. reciprocate through our money or reciprocate in some way. Do people like you? It pays to be likable, right? And last but not least, social proof, which is this idea of doing as, I know, look, it's controversial, even frowned upon to say, do as others do. In fact, I'm a big believer in going against the grain and doing the opposite. I really am, but at the same time, we are all wired to look at what other people are doing and follow them to some degree, right? Especially if, it's your competitor. Let's say you're talking to marketing agencies and you see that that agency worked with your competitor at some point, but not anymore. You start to think, a lot of us start to think, geez, well, they worked with my competitor. If they're good enough for my bigger competitor, there's a good chance they're good enough for me. And I could give you a million variations on the same theme. But one of the key takeaways, other than the list itself, and this book is great, is it helps build the case for the more difficult sides of that marketing spectrum, the earned media side and the branding kind of owned media side. You really need to craft that brand and that message and be consistent. You really want third parties validating you, talking about you, right? Building your authority. And that's why in that marketing mix, the less accessible sides of it, again, earned media or taking the time, investing that money in your brand, why it really, really pays off, because these are some of the true things that move people to a point of conversion. And I think we'll probably end there. Again, things that demonstrate social proof real quickly: client logos, reviews, testimonials, byline articles, earned media. These things all do that. And I think on that note, we should end for now. So thank you very much, and I'll take one or two questions if anybody's got it. Questions, questions, questions. Shy room. Okay, very good. Well, think about it at the end if we have time, and I think we will. All three of us will be available for additional questions if you have any. Thanks again, guys, and Sheldon, it's your show.
Hi, everyone. I know. So fun, so fun. All right, everybody's getting in their seats. Little second round of caffeine. I love that. The presentation that I'm about to show you is very much bullet pointed and quite simplistic in its nature, because I, my friends, am not. I am not a simplistic person, and as an entrepreneur, the majority of you are not either. Am I correct? Very heavily layered individuals that are doing their best each and every day to communicate their message in order to get closer to what it is that they want. This part of the presentation, I was set up so wonderfully. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, John. So wonderfully, because this is the practical part. This is the part where we truly put pen to paper, if we still do that. I'm a note taker still. Where we actually upload JPEGs, right? Right? We convert PDFs, right? Or we ask somebody to help us do so, right? This is the time that we make it happen. We're gonna connect you to agencies to take you to the next level, but it's very hard to manage something in which you do not understand. It's very hard to give somebody dollars in a category in which you have not even had a clue and or mastered. So what we're gonna talk about is your content strategy. We're gonna use a lot of jargon words that we throw around. I'm gonna simplify them as much as possible. I'm gonna forewarn you, I'm a woman of analogies. I am a visual learner, right? I need a story. And my goodness, my darlings, I have plenty of stories. So I'm going to share those with you. First, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sheldon Barlatt-Rumer. I am the CEO and executive producer of a digital streaming platform called This Is It Network. I'm also extremely spoiled to be a tag partner. And I work in conjunction with John and Steve and all of the other professionals in order to get all of you closer to what it is that you want. I talk all day. All day. Whether it's in a room or in a Zoom, I talk all day. And my goal is to help others elevate their voices and find the exact right place in order to put their brands. What I truly believe is that the majority of you are doing the right things, but in the wrong rooms. The majority of you are doing and saying the right thing, but talking to the wrong people, which makes you question yourself, right? What am I doing? Am I crazy? Like, is it not good enough? Is my chocolate chip cookie not revolutionary, right? And the answer is absolutely revolutionary. You are feeding it to the wrong people. And so what we need to do is get really clear on content strategy, distribution, and more importantly, how to measure it. And I'm going to do this in a very simplistic way, not because I don't think that you can handle it, because I need you to get to work. And oftentimes when things seem to be a little confusing, what do? Right? Lights off, REM sleep, we're done. I'm like, I will deal with this tomorrow, or not at all. But I need you to deal with this today. We're gonna focus on content strategy, distribution, and measurement. We're also gonna be realistic about who you are as a brand. I myself check a lot of check marks, right? In this world, personally and professionally, and we're gonna incorporate those into the story. How many of you, again, are small business owners? Right. Small business owners typically do not get into business to become Instagram influencers, right? You didn't leave your 40-hour work week job to work 80 hours a week, right? To be on social media all day. You left your job because you had a mission, you had a calling, you have a product, you have a service that deserves attention. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna incorporate content creation, strategy, distribution, and measurement into your day, and then we're gonna find the agency that's gonna take you to the next level. Because then you'll be better able to manage them, tell them what to do, and measure what they are doing for you. Is that fair? All right, so we're gonna get to work. My little clicker. We use a lot of jargon, content. There's content, right? They're content creators. You people are like, what are they talking about? Aren't they taking pictures? They're content creators. They're bloggers. I thought he was a writer. No, he's a content creator, right? We throw around these words to torture you, truly, right? And to change our business cards on a regular basis. But content truly is any material available on the web. That's not complicated, right? We got this. You're still with me? Any material available on the web. Online content includes texts, images, animation, music, videos. These are storytelling pieces. I, my friends, am a storyteller. I'm sure you are not surprised that I was the most talkative in 4th grade, right? Where is she now, right? The most talkative, constantly telling stories. Now that I'm out and about, you can often hear me before you see me. Individuals are like, Sheldon's here. I know she's here somewhere. I can hear her. I can't see her, but I know she's here somewhere. I'm making friends in the produce section. I am an extrovert. But I know that I am outnumbered by people who do not want to tell stories, that did not get into business, again, to be online all day long, and to be making friends in the produce section. So I'm here to be able to help you in establishing what content makes the most sense for you, how to manage that, and connecting you with the proper agencies so you can get to exactly to where you want to be. Fair? You still hanging in? I'm gonna be double checking. Do you know what I mean? Okay, fair. This is some examples, again, of some content: photos, videos, social media posts, blog posts, in-depth articles, ebooks, and my favorite, live broadcasts. I do a live broadcast every day. So let me just explain to you what BQ was like for me. So BQ for me was before quarantine, right? And BQ, I was on autopilot, right? I didn't know how I got to work, right? We're multitasking, we're doing all of the things. We get the call, March of 2020, that the world has shut down and I am not well. I used to interview people each and every day for our digital streaming platform, shoulder to shoulder, 1 to 5 guests per day, and I was told that I could no longer do that. So all of this energy was stuck at home. Safe, but stuck at home. And I was not well. In the first 2 weeks, I could not find my lashes, I did not comb my weave, and I was eating Oreo cookies like cobs of corn. It was not okay, right? It was not okay. But I realized that I had to create an opportunity to connect with my market. I had to create an opportunity in this space, and I went from being in the room to in the Zoom, and I used content in order to make it happen. Once I was able to establish this, I was able to team up with agencies to help me take it completely to the next level. So that's what I would like to help you in doing. One piece of advice. We are no longer going to fake it till we make it. I don't want to hear it. If you were faking it till you make it before you met me, fine. Moving forward, Sheldon says no. We are no longer faking it till you make it. Why? For those of you who love handbags, a plastic bag will never be a Louis Vuitton, ever, right? And fake plants never grow roots. There's no story to tell about a fictional life you are pretending to have. And no one wants to read that book or watch that movie. There is no bestseller where you were rich and then your husband was rich and your husband was rich and everybody was rich and we were fabulous. That's not a bestseller. Nobody buys that book, right? In the bestsellers, everyone lived in a car and everybody didn't have, and now they've got. You are your own bestseller. And you are going to share that bestseller online because people are intrigued with how you got to where it is that you are. They want to know about grandmother's recipe, right? And how we got there. They want to see you create that. Fake plants never grow roots. So we want to make sure that we find the roots and we communicate those roots as often as possible. I need you to become a storyteller. And again, after this presentation, you may not be an extrovert like myself, but I hope that this presentation gives you some bullet points to be able to walk through and get started in this way. Content used to be a nice to have. Right? A website used to be like, I have some extra dollars. Let me go gobble up a .com from GoDaddy and see what I can whip up, right? Now, content is a utility. If you are not out in the space, you do not exist. Your favorite restaurant, as delicious as it may be, if your content doesn't live or the content of that restaurant doesn't live, what happens when we Google it and we cannot find it? The assumption is that they are closed, right? Even though they are working so hard in the kitchen to create that meal and waiting with bated breath at the door for you, they seem closed online. And what do? You move on to the next available restaurant. Unbeknownst to you, they are literally waiting at the hostess stand to keep their lights on. So yes, is it challenging, overwhelming? Do you find yourself slightly overwhelmed and very confused about a lot of the terms we discussed maybe a little earlier today? My goal is to simplify, I don't say dumb down, to simplify it for you so you can act upon it. So in this moment, in this time, you can begin to tell your story. Your content needs to live not so you can become the next TikToker, #over40 if anybody's looking, the next TikToker. It's not to be the next TikToker, it's to be found. It's just so individuals who want what you have can find you. So when you're in a space where you're like, should I do this? I'm frustrated, I don't want to be on Instagram all day. You have to be in these social platforms enough to be found. If someone is to Google you, it is your obligation and hopefully your duty and responsibility to be there waiting for them. And so that's what the approach I want to be able to provide you as you create your content, as you bravely tell your story. Why should you create content, as we like to say? I want you to share your brand story and mission. I want you to connect directly with your community. I want you to promote yourself both personally, which we'll discuss, and professionally. I want you to engage with industry professionals. I want you to participate in like-minded conversations. In addition to being the CEO and executive producer of This Is It Network, I'm spoiled enough to also be an adjunct at Temple University and Drexel University. I teach at Temple University, I teach personal branding to undergraduates. If you pray, pray for me. And then I teach social media strategy to executives with these two wonderful gentlemen. And in doing so, I always say, especially within personal branding, and the gentleman that spoke before me reiterated this, my definition of personal branding is what people say and think about you in your absence. It's what people say and think about you and your business when you and your business are not there to defend yourself. not there to say, well, I didn't mean to, and the website's this, and the color's this, and we actually have extra cookies. The majority of decisions that are made that will change your life happen when you are not in the room. The majority of decisions that are made that change the future of your business happen when you do not participate. Right? Somebody says something, you should have Cheldon speak at your event. The first thing all of you do is Google me. And if I don't have content out there that justifies my presence here today, they move on to someone else. It doesn't require me to be an Instagram star, but it requires what they find about me to be consistent with what I want. Are you still with me? So our job is not to break the internet, but our job is to be on it. So when people have a need for what it is that we offer, that they can find us. Oops, there we go. And how do you do this? What is your brand story? Well, I break it down to your unique equation. So I need you to get your little Super Soul Sunday in yourself today. I need you to sit with yourself, about yourself for a minute, right? I need you to find your unique equation, is what I call it. Your unique equation is who you are. I need you to identify that. I need you to identify what it is that you want out of your content. And most importantly, I need you to get comfortable bragging boldly as to why you deserve it. You are putting all of this out into the world. Why should people pay attention? And if they pay attention, what do you want from them? And what stories are you telling? Right? Simplistic bullet points to get you to where it is you need to be. So let's dive into your unique equation. Right? Not everyone, right, is who you are. They might have similarities, but they're not who you are. Not everyone wants what you want. They may want the same thing, but they're not who you are wanting the same thing, right? Some of you all may have the same resume from the same university, but that doesn't match. Why you deserve it doesn't match what you want and who you are. It's your unique equation all added together. It's your fingerprint of sorts within the digital space, and it belongs solely to you. What your job is to communicate it to the right people. So who you are, again, homework, you have pens, get involved. This is what I need you to do. Your brand facts are the first things that identify who you are. These are things, brand features and elements. These are things that cannot be disputed. Here are my check marks. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa. That is not an opinion, that is a fact, right? And we build relationships based on life facts, don't we? If I was to meet someone else from Sierra Leone, I'd be like, you're from Sierra Leone? I'm from Sierra Leone. Oh my gosh, buy my stuff, right? That's how it happens, right? But we have to identify our life facts. There was a point in time that your personal life and your professional life were separate, right? And we function in that way. Now our personal life and our professional life can complement each other in a way that can get us closer to what we want. But first you must sit with yourself, about yourself, and recognize these things. I'm one of 4. Again, I come from a West African family. All of my siblings are academics. I was supposed to be an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, but I just talk to myself on Facebook every day. My father is still very confused at age 76. Who pays you exactly is the question every Thanksgiving. How do you make money? Like, it's very, very confusing for him. But those are things that are ultimately life facts. I'm an adjunct at Temple and Drexel. That's a fact. That connects me to maybe some Temple or Drexel alumni in the room, right? And we can start talking about campus, right? And how it's changed, right? All the things, buy my stuff, right? It allows for us to have a direct connection. So your life facts. I'm also a mother of 2. I have an 11-year-old daughter. Such a confusing time. Again, more prayers. And I have a 4-year-old son. What am I doing? Like, what am I thinking? But it's the truth, right? Funny story about my son and the way in which the digital world has changed so desperately is that he calls me from the other room. I comfortably left him watching television. He calls me from the other room. Mom! I was like, oh my gosh, what is wrong? All the things, right? All the things are, what did he eat? What did he swallow? What is missing, right? What is bleeding? All of the things. I come in, I'm like, Chase, what's wrong? Something happened to my TV. I look at the TV and it's a woman swifting My son at age 4 had never seen a commercial. His program actually stopped, and there was a woman who intruded on his cartoon and was now sweeping the floor, and he immediately wanted me to fix it, right? That is the digital space that we are dealing with right now. This 4-year-old boy had never seen a commercial, had never been interrupted, right? And he wanted mommy to fix it. And of course I did. Meanwhile, I was just like, Skip, I can't. Mommy, I wear a cape, right? Being able to figure it out. But this is the digital space. And on that point, hasn't it moved so quickly? It moves so quickly. And for you, small business owners, how many of you are here, small business owners? We are busy building our businesses, right? To get the update. I'm not involved in Mark Zuckerberg, like he's my friend. I'm not involved in Mark's meeting. He doesn't invite me. He doesn't tell me what he's about to do, how he's about to change the algorithm, right? I'm too busy baking my cookies. And so because it's moving so quickly, the things that I'm about to share with you will help you jump into it in a way in which you can manage it, into a way in which you can participate and get ready for the agency to come and change your outcomes. The next is your brand strengths. I need you to own what you are good at. I need you to own it. Public speaking, my thing. I like it, right? Talking to myself on Facebook, check, I like that, right? I know what my strengths are, and I'm lucky enough to have created a career based on what it is that I'm good at. Mathematics? No. Those of you that love Excel? No. Spreadsheets, right? You get your columns to walk and talk and do things on purpose. That is not my story. I don't know. I had a huge presentation, and I'm going to talk to you about that as it relates to addressing your weaknesses. So focus on your strengths. Give me some strengths, write those down, and then also begin to identify your weaknesses, not because we're going to dwell on them, but we need to recognize them because we're going to give them to someone else. And let me explain. Again, I'm good at a lot of things, but I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I learned that the hard way. Years ago, this is about 5 years ago, I'm one of 4. My younger sister is a doctor of engineering. Again, I talk to myself on Facebook. She's a doctor of engineering and always says, can I help you? Let me know when I can help you. Let me know when I can help you, but I am the older sister. So the answer again is no. I'm good, I got it. FYI, if you see me out there and anywhere and I say that I'm fine 3 times, that means I am not fine. That means you need to call reinforcements and help. And what happened is that I had to create this P&L for a presentation. And I had said, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, which meant I was not. 3 days later, I decide to suck up all of my ego and ask my baby sister to help me with this Excel sheet, right? I sent it to her. In 20 minutes, she sends it back. In the younger sister voice, you mean like this? Is that what you meant? And I was like, oh. I'm like, exactly like this. And I couldn't even be mad at her. It was perfect, it was wonderful. It did all of what it needed to do. I dared not touch a thing. And I sent it to whoever needed it. But the lesson wasn't being mad at her. The lesson was I would never get those 3 days back. I would never get those 3 days back that I could be spending on my business. Right? And why I work with TAG is one of those particular reasons. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And I'm going to give what I don't know to those that can help me. Right? So I can stand in my sphere of influence. So I will never lose 3 days again or give her the satisfaction of fixing something for me. So I need you to figure out your brand facts, your brand strengths, and identify your weaknesses, not to dwell on them, but to know what to give to someone else. So if you love Excels, you're welcome. I give them to you. If you love spreadsheets, it's the least I can do. I will give them to you. And I will take the keynote presentations. All right, let's keep it moving. What do you want? I think a lot of small business owners don't go into this specifically as it relates to their content creation. You go into it, I gotta take pictures. I gotta post because they said I gotta post, but you don't set forth what it is you actually want from what it is that you are creating. I define it as 2 separate things, a lot of analogies. Your sticker goals. Your sticker goals are things that need to adhere for a significant period of time, but cannot blow off with the wind. They have to, in fact, stick. You need to determine what your short-term goals are for your content creation. What do you need to do today? You also need to be able to determine what I call your tattoo goals. These are permanent things that cannot be erased. They can only be surgically removed. These are the things that you want long-term. You close your eyes and you have global distribution. You close your eyes and you're in that glass conference room with that fake brick wall. I know that's what you want. I know that's what you want, right? That's the space. That's your tattoo goal, right? And some of those sticker goals could be create a consistent profile on all platforms, right? Your sticker goals could be launch an Instagram account. Because in some small businesses, you're too busy businessing for you to actually get these things done. But you need to be able to figure this out. Execute your first live broadcast. Your longer tattoo goals, again, could be global distribution and hitting social selling benchmarks. But you need to be able to address these, not only to help manage the expectations of the agencies that you work with, but to feel as if you are moving forward. I'm a list taker. I used to create to-do lists. How many of you still create to-do lists on a regular basis? They were absolute torture for me. Again, my daughter is 11. On this to-do list would be, look at colleges, maybe Westchester, for Sydney Rachel Rumor. She's 11, right? There were things on the to-do list that there was no way that I could be able to accomplish. No way that I'd be able to mark off. It was like a torture chamber every morning of things that made me feel guilty and bad and unaccomplished in the evening. Now I only create today lists. This is what I'm doing today. Your content strategy should be on your today list. Things in which you are posting today. And so many of you raised your hands and said that you were busy and that social media and content creation was not a platform. I suggest you rip it off like a Band-Aid in the morning and let the algorithm work for you all day. For those of you, and we'll talk about that system as well, but I need you to think about what your sticker goals are and what your tattoo goals are. This is the hardest part, I think, for a lot of you. Why do you deserve attention? Why should people be following, fanning, and liking you, as I like to say, on your social media platform? What value do you bring to the table? Some of you may wake up and was like, I don't know what to post. How many of you have ever been in that situation, right? I have no idea what to create. And sometimes and oftentimes you engage with agencies and you say the same thing. We want to be able to utilize the budget, right? A lot of us are on a budget, and prepare in that way. And in order to do that, we want to prepare this unique equation. We want to get ourselves organized and clear. And I'll have an analogy as to why in a moment. But first, I want us to figure out why you deserve the attention that you want in the social space, in the online space. Why do you deserve visitation to your website? One of the ways in which I describe it is your highlight reel. Another check mark that I have is that I'm a former Division I athlete. I played field hockey and ran track for LaSalle University in Philadelphia. That's when I used to run on purpose. Yes, there's my people. Go Explorers. We'll talk. That's fun, right? Direct connection, who you are, what you want, why you deserve it, right? And he would only know that if I didn't speak it, he wouldn't know it. Buy something, right? That's the space. So we want to be able to have those conversations. So a highlight reel meant something to me in 1995. When again, I ran on purpose. When I put together a highlight reel. I put together a highlight reel for those individuals that were looking to recruit me to play field hockey at their university. And on that highlight reel, it was the best of Cheldon Barlatt at the time, right? It was the best. It was me carrying the ball, me passing, me assisting. It was the highlight reel of what it is that I brought to the table. It was me reflecting on my accomplishments and sharing that with the people who had what it is that I wanted. It was me sharing my values and my strengths. It was identifying the references, the reviews, the referrals of my coaches to say she would be an amazing addition to your team, to your institution. What I find that the majority of you do is you do not create a highlight reel of your business, right? You spend a lot of time, I'm sorry we're not open. I'm sorry we don't have blueberry muffins. As opposed to saying we specialize in chocolate chip, right? It's that negative self-talk that you put out and share with the world. The reason why you deserve attention is the highlight reel of your business. If you were to have a Wikipedia account, what would be on it? What would be the highlights of your business? Write them down. Because if you don't know, then no one else will either. And when we look to figure out what to put on our content, what to tell in our story, it's the highlight reels of what it is. And some of you may say, well, I feel like I keep saying the same thing. How many of you feel that way? I keep saying the same thing. Chocolate chip muffins, blueberry muffins, over and over and over again, right? And we feel that way. Well, you know, I have another analogy for that too. How many of you like live music? Yeah, it's my people. I have an uncomfortable infatuation with John Bon Jovi. We can talk about that later. I'm a Jersey girl, it's very uncomfortable. I'll unpack it with my therapist. It's very uncomfortable. So either way, I love to go see him and the boys perform. And so when you go to a concert, now that the world is opening up, right? You go to a concert, you listen to the music on the way to the concert, yes? Whatever that music is. You go into the parking lot, as we tailgate, as we do, right? We listen to the music, that same song in the parking lot, do we not? Yes. We get into the stadium, and this analogy is for those individuals that I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying the same thing over and over again. We go into the concert, and we are hoping and praying that he sings every song I listen to on the way and in the parking lot. Am I right? But then John gets up, and he says, I just wanted to play something that we've been working on. And you're like, what in the world? I did not pay for this, John. I did not pay for a workshop of your new stuff. I paid to know every single word. I paid because I was brand loyal to you, because there was a level of expectation in the execution of your playlist, and I was ready for it, right? That's the time that you go and you get the overpriced Chickies fries. You're like, work it out, John. I'll be back for the next set, right? That's what you do. Because we are creating repetition and we are focusing on the highlights of our business, because the highlights of our business are unique to our unique equation. Does that make sense? It's owning our message. It's owning what we say and how we say it. The unique equation and planning the unique equation is having a plan. It's having a plan and getting yourself super, super excited about what it is that you're going to do. It's about being organized, right? How many of you have ever not been hungry, but hangry? Right? Right? I mean, the stomach starts talking, right? And you go to the grocery store hangry. What happens? To the cart. When you go to the grocery store hangry, you get whipped cream and avocados, right? You get things you do not need. You get a bunch of things you do not need. A lot of you are attempting to create content hangry, and you are getting a lot of things in which you do not need. You are throwing a bunch of stuff into the cart because you are just grasping at straws, right? Somebody said TikTok, somebody said this, somebody said this. And the next thing you know, you got whipped cream and avocados, and that does not make a meal, right? That does not make a meal. So what I want you to do is to have a list for the grocery store. I want us to be prepared, and your unique equation helps you do that. I need you to get involved, though. I need you to do some research. And oftentimes, you don't want to look at your competition. You want to be in denial. I don't want to see what Janet's doing. I'm minding my own business, right? I think you need to know Janet. You need to get involved. You need to review other brand websites and accounts. You need to research your brand category and industry. You must become an authority, as my gentleman friends have said, within your space. And you can't be an authority in denial. I need you to search competitor websites and handles. I need you to follow them. Yes, they can see you. Follow them. You're fine. Janet's fine. I need you to review competitor content, bios, descriptions, right? When we were in school, we did the work. We studied the topic structure before we executed the job, right? So get to work. Let's do the research and start studying. Pull examples, where they're posting and what they're saying. Especially for those of you that are unclear on how to use your voice, or how do you instruct your agency to use your voice. Make sure that we have and done some research. I need you to audit your content. I Google myself often, but you may not. So I need you to Google yourself. Where can you currently find your brand? We cannot manage what we do not know. We can't manage what we don't know. Look, I'm just kind of trying to figure it out. Come on, we can do better. We can do better. Where does our brand live, right? Where does your content currently live? What social platforms do you currently use? Your current audience, identify them. Narrow down the potential reach. And we're gonna talk about narrowing this down for sure. Here's what I need you to know, my new best friends. You are not for everyone. Surrender it. Let it go, like the Excel sheet. Just let it go, right? Just give it to someone else. You are not for everyone. The right people, my friends, hear and see you differently. Again, are you doing the right thing, but in the wrong room? So many people are defining themselves by the wrong rooms that they are in, as opposed to finding the right people, right? And I need you to know that to be the truth. And the true misconception is that you do not need 1 million followers to make $1 million. You just don't. This idea of chasing followers continuously, right? And our validation coming from not having enough followers or not having enough likes on our posts, this is a distraction from what we are actually trying to do. I have had accounts be like, it only got 24 likes, I'm going to delete it. But if that woman had 24 customers today, it would have changed her life. We need to focus on the quality of things. It is not about the 1 million followers. The train left the station, the internet was wild, we were focusing on Tiffany in her hunter boots, in the pumpkin patch, with her Starbucks coffee and her affinity scarf. We all know Tiffany, right? The Instagram influencer, right? Brands used to spend $50,000 giving Tiffany $15,000, $50,000 for one post. They realized there was minimal to no return on investment. There was no quality for her quantity. Now, brands are working with digital agencies like myself, with platforms like myself, with individuals and women that have only 1,000 followers, 500 followers, because 250 people will buy something from them, right? Because of the brand loyalty that my colleagues talked about before. So please, please do not get completely distracted by the need for more followers. If you have 50 followers, talk to them. They asked for your information. I've had people say to me, hey, Sheldon, when I get more followers, I will fill in the blank. What about the 50 people that opted in from the beginning? What about the 50 people that wanted to hear from you and see you today? Spoil them. Spoil them. And they will get you the followers that you need and want. Personas, who are we speaking to? Now, I love not only to talk to people, but to talk to myself. Shocker. And I create personas for the various categories, and John touched on this as well. I need you to know who you are speaking to. I need you to be clear on who's on the other end of that Facebook post, of your website. I need you to be clear who you are speaking to. And this individual, this community can evolve, right? They can change, but we need to have a goal and objective to go into it. We need to identify them by age, location, demographics, socioeconomics, gender identifiers. You need to map it out. If you have yet to do so, I need you to. I've named them Nancy, Linda. And every time I post something, I say, would Linda like this? I don't know if Linda would like this, right? It's a persona I have created, and miraculously, I have found more Lindas. Because I'm intentional about the content. And again, you sit down with your agency and say, at this moment, this is the market that I'm talking to. This is the market that I want. You are preparing yourself. You are creating the list for the grocery store. Less is more. I want you to be specific. I want you to identify that target market. I want you to see where they live. Is Linda on Facebook? Would she go directly to my website? Is she hanging out on Etsy? As opposed to trying to be everything to everyone, focus on creating the persona and go to where they are, right? When we first started This Isn't Network, I instantly started, it's a video platform. We went to YouTube, right? Makes sense, it's video, YouTube, right? Duh, right? That's what I thought. I have a very young, self-taught production manager, amazing young guy. And after every shoot, we would go to lunch. Went to Chipotle, right? Eating a bowl, talking, commiserating about how that we weren't getting enough traction on YouTube. Not enough people were watching me, and I thought I was funny, right? I was, extra guac. It was like one of those days. Do you know what I mean? And then I sat with him, and he lifts his head up, to Quan Allen, shout out to him, lifts his head up and says, all of your ladies are on Facebook, and just keeps eating. And I was like, from the mouths of babes. Okay, Sheldon. When the professor becomes the student, right? I was wasting so much time begging people to go from their existing platform to another platform to find me, right? Getting Linda to change her pattern of her day-to-day to jump on YouTube to get to me when I needed to go to Linda. The minute, and I give him full credit for it, the minute we decided to put more of our energy into the Facebook space, our world changed. Those likes and followers we were begging for, that we were tortured by, miraculously came because it was convenient for them to find us. We made it easy for them to participate. Because truly, marketing, advertising is an interruption on the way to something else. Very few people, until now, because now you'll follow me, very few people head on your social platforms and are like, oh, what's Sheldon doing today, right? You go on, whether it be news or whether to find out what your nephew has done or to see pictures of the bar or bat mitzvah. That's why you go on these platforms. And as you are scrolling, you fall upon me. And my interruption has to be worthy of attention, right? But what will help that interruption being worthy of attention is putting that interruption in the right place. So give some thought to that. Go to where your people are. I need you, again, that grocery list plan. I want you to plan for success. This is for my small business owners and even the executives, those even in the nonprofit space, anyone who's looking to tell their story. I need you to be realistic. Even though I have tried to squeeze 26 hours, there is only 24 hours in a day, right? And we have cookies to make, right? We have siding to put up. We have things to do, so you have to be realistic. It is very much like the New Year's resolution, right, peeps? It's about time. It's about time. We don't see the gym ever again. It's about time of the year, right? We're super excited. We sign up for all things. Now we're doing Pilates, all the things in the new year. And what I say to people all the time in the new year is that, yes, I would love for you to go from 0 to good, but I'd rather you focus from going from good to great. Your resolution should live in what you can do better today, as opposed to going from, I'm not doing absolutely anything, to running a marathon. And this is not me taking the wind out of your sails. This is just me getting you to run a 5K, right? And for us to really get to where we need to be. So I want you to be really realistic with your plan. I want you to allocate how much time you have for content creation. Be really realistic. It's okay to say not a lot. How many of you are busy? Right? Okay. Why are we in denial about being busy? You don't want to say you're busy? I question, what are you doing? Right? Right? I want you to say realistically, because if you can't be realistic, you can't incorporate it properly. I want you to be consistent. Build that rhythm. Get that rhythm. Get that loyalty, which we will talk about. And I have a rule that I'm going to introduce to you on how you can be able, whether manage individuals in this communication of your content or things in which you can do as it relates. So it's a 3-to-1 rule. And that 3 and that 1 can happen in any sequence. Like I had mentioned to you before, you don't have to be the next Instagram influencer. You just have to be found, right? So when somebody is looking for you, whatever it is, the last thing that they find needs to be consistent with what it is that you determined that you wanted. A reflection of your tattoo goal, but consistent with your sticker goal, that 3-to-1 rule. The 3-to-1 rule is made up, again, of quality content. I need your photos to be clear. Come on, we all got the upgrade. I need your photos to be clear. I need us to uncluttered graphics. Right? How many of you have driven by a billboard in which we could not read, that had far too much copy on it, right? I'm doing 80, 65. doing 65. I'm doing 65, right? I can't read that. And though the billboard may be on the moon, it's not necessarily serving what it is that we're looking for. So make it as intentional but uncluttered as possible. Intentional copy. I'm old enough to remember subliminal advertising, right? Those Super Bowl ads that we didn't know whether the commercial was selling diapers or insurance, but the baby was cute, right? And people would spend millions and millions of dollars and be like, ooh, that commercial was awesome, but we couldn't tell you what they were selling. We're no longer in that day and age. We need to be intentional about what we put out into the world. Short videos, short blogs, useful articles, and direct asks. The 3-to-1 rule is broken down in this way. I need you to educate, engage, entertain, and then ask somebody for something. It's a rhythm. And this is primarily for the individuals who do not know what to say, right? If you don't have, you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm not really sure what I should be posting. You can refer to this slide, and again, we'll share that link with you. Should I be educating? Should I be engaging? Should I be entertaining? Now it's time to ask. That's the 3-to-1. There's separation between your asks is the goal. Because we all have that friend, that cousin, that uncle that only calls when they need something. We send them right to voicemail. Now I can't even send them, I just leave the phone, let it ring, so I don't feel as bad, right? Like, what's happening, right? But we have the friend that every time that they call, we know they need something. Some of your social media platforms look like that. Every time you post, it's an open house. Every time you post, buy this, buy this, buy this, this is the sale, click through. You're not creating any brand loyalty because all you're doing is asking. And just like I'm sending my cousin to voicemail, you will equally be sent to mute. Because you have no value to bring. And I have no house to buy. So I have no need for you. But if you are in real estate and you're providing me with information on interiors, landscaping, awesome ways to redecorate my den or pave my garage and turn it into a man cave for my husband. Am I drifting? I am. That's what happened. Pandemic, so much building happened. There's nothing left to build, no more built-ins. Oh my goodness. But yeah, but a real estate colleague was posting renovations. He wasn't selling homes, but in the off chance that I now need a house or someone in my life needs a house, I know who to call because he wasn't asking me for anything. He was building his content out in order to support this 3-to-1 rule. So let me explain it. Education, make them smarter. Share brand stories, product statements, announcements, celebrations. Everybody loves happy birthday, right? Most engagement you'll ever get on social media, right? You're breaking the internet when you're turning 32, right? All things, celebrations, anniversaries, historic facts. This is the time that you pull out that black and white picture from the first opening, you and your mom at the door, right? Add that filter, you and mom baking the cookies, right? You share that historic fact. The interesting thing about education is that we always think, especially on our social media platforms, that we need to be the author of the content. I suggest you read everything you share, but I do think that there is a proper association with sharing content that you have not published. For those of you that are waking up in the morning and you're like, oh, what to post? If there are platforms in which you know, like, and trust, most importantly, this is an opportunity to align yourself with more established media outlets and share their content specifically in your category. The Baker Food Network, Business and Investing, maybe Forbes, right? You want to be in sports management or you sell sports apparel, share ESPN. It creates information and you become the authority on how people get the information in your category of interest. You educate them. You engage them. So many people are like, I get no comments. No one commented on my stuff. Not that you sound like that, just in my head, right? I get no comments on my stuff. Did you ask a question? Why would somebody just randomly just start commenting on things, right? You get what you ask for. Ask a question, general question. What is your favorite? Fill in the blank. When I am hard up for content, Nancy and Linda both like coffee or tea. Love it. Breaks the internet every time. Tea, coffee. From Doylestown, right? Everybody, all the time. When we have nothing to say, Starbucks or Dunkin', the world loses its mind, right? Ask a question to get a reaction. stucco or siding, right? What's your favorite cookie? Do not be upset that people aren't answering you when you are not asking anything. So get involved. Surveys, fun market research, industry, brand trivia, contests, and giveaways. I've been at conferences where grown folks that are multimillionaires will stand in line for a free t-shirt. Am I right? Right? Don't they love the free? XX large free t-shirt. I can't. I'm like, we have no more. It's the whole thing, right? Contests and giveaways. Share that event invitation, nominations and shout outs. Is there a teacher in our life we can celebrate? Thanks to the World Wide Web and our industry of chaos, there is truly a celebration on every day, right? Was it, was Avocado Day the other day? I mean, there's a celebration for every day. Nationaldays.com, if you need a reference, right? Add some humor. Now, some of you are like, Sheldon, I'm not funny. Well, we're all a little funny, let's be honest. But I just want you to provide some joy, right? And that might be in the form of a photo or image or internal videos, things that you share about popular celebrities or TV shows. These are fillers, but these also allow for individuals to rely on you for content. Ideally, this content is consistent with who you are, right? It's what people will talk about you in your absence. The live broadcast that I love so much, I do a morning message every day, and on the heels of BQ, before quarantine, after I put down the sleeves of Oreos, I decided to give myself a rhythm, and every morning at 11 o'clock, I go on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and I just address my community. It gives me something to do and look forward to, and it gives them something to rely on. One of my dear, dear friends and colleagues, Lisa, over here, I do it at 11 o'clock Eastern. If it's 11:10 and I am not on, Lisa will be like, Sheldon, are you okay? Are you all right? Is everything all right? That is the brand loyalty and consistency, right? So that goes back to the people who don't want to post. So if you only post once a month, say it. I will do this the first Monday of every month. And with bated breath, your community will wait for you for the first Monday of every month. They will know, because it says we post on the first Monday of every month. They will not be concerned on Thursday when they don't see you. They will not think that you are shut down. For more information, call this number. You give them direct instructions in order to get a direct answer until you retain the agency in order for you to take it to the next level. This is just an example of the 3-to-1 rule. Your ability to educate, maybe a celebration, engage, maybe some trivia. And this doesn't have to be every day of the week. You can replace this with weeks. You can replace it with months. It's just the rhythm that you create. The other reason why it's important to create a rhythm is that the internet is a living, breathing thing. The more you feed her, the nicer she is to you. The more you give content to the internet, the better it is for you. And some of you are like, well, I was a yoga instructor and now I own a bakery. Keep feeding the internet the bakery. When's the last time we went to the second page of Google? I mean, let's be honest, right? Who goes down and clicks 2? Nobody, right? Nobody does that, right? So keep feeding the internet what you want for it to see. I need you, excuse me, to be consistent. I need you to show up for your community. We all have that friend also that doesn't show up when we call, that isn't around when we need them. You're wondering why you're not getting business. Are you showing up for your community? Are you showing up? Are you accessible to them? I want you guys to think about it, not because of judgment. This is judgment-free. This is the Planet Fitness of marketing. There's no judgment here, right? I need you to come as you are and really, truly understand that it is honestly you just saying, if I want people to buy from me, am I making it easy for them to find me? And I have to tell you, the majority of people do not make it easy. You are concerned that people cannot find you, people are not purchasing from you, but you have created a scavenger hunt for them to find you. Your social media all have different names. All have different names. You're socially committed to Bunny 1996 for whatever reason, but it needs to actually be your business name, right? Your website should be consistent with your social media platforms. Your content, that address should be consistent. How many of you, now that we're open up, like to go to parties? Yes? Here. Do I give people multiple addresses to the same house? Right? Come to my party at any one of these. You want to make it as easy as possible to find you. And for those of you that are front-facing in your content, those of you who want more people to pay attention to you, to follow, fan, and like you, again, in your spaces, you put your social media platforms on your business cards, and then for whatever reason, you lock them. You make them private, right? So now you've invited me to your party, you've given me the address, and I'm walking up to the door, and you are hiding from me. You gave me the address and then you locked the door. The information you share with the world should be the information in which you want for them to see. We want more clients, we want more business, we want our content to work for us, so let's stop hiding. Be visible, don't hide. Make sure that you can get out there in a space. People cannot purchase things in which they cannot find. It's that simple. They cannot buy from you if they cannot find you. And we know how lazy we all are. If you make it hard I'm done, right? You go to a website, 3 clicks, I'm tired. Let me just go to where I went last time, right? And so we want to afford for that. We want to create a routine that we can manage. We want to give people a good reason to stop by and, most importantly, return. I want you to be a good friend on social media. Good content starts conversations that lead to conversions. That's how it is. Conversations that happen in your absence. Content is so much about the share, right? Did you see this? You have to buy this. Did you see this? Right? Let me send you the link. How many times do we say that on a regular basis? I'm just gonna send you the link. I'm gonna send you the link, right? Are people saying that about you? Are people sending your links? Or can they not find you? And is it not shareable? I want you to build the trust and loyalty. I want you to become reliable. I want you to be that good friend that is there when they are looking for you. They have the information, they have the address, they have the link, they have the contact, and they can find you. I want you to not only start a conversation, but continue it. When somebody says something to you on a social media platform, respond. Be a good friend. If somebody said to me, hi, and I was like, right? I was too busy. You were too busy to say hello? But in the same breath, you're like, I need more followers. I need more business. You don't talk like this, just in my head. So I want you to continue the conversation because, again, we don't need 1 million followers to make $1 million. If I pay attention to the people who follow me now, if I dive into the relationships in which I currently have, they will do the work. Did you see this? I'll send you a link, right? Because there's brand loyalty. And that brand loyalty will change your business. Again, use your manners. Please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Somebody shares something on your behalf, jump into the comment and say, thank you. Use your manners, be a good friend, participate. And again, the more you feed her, the nicer she is to you. The more you're engaging on social platforms, the nicer she is to you. The more content that you create, which is consistent with what you want, the better chance for you to receive what it is that you deserve. This is where it gets kind of funky for some of you, because we don't want to look at anything, right? We just want to do it and run away, right? I'm going to post it and then run away. I'm going to bed. I'm going to post it. I'm not going to see how it does. I'm not going to measure it. I did it. Sheldon, you told me to do it. I did it. How did it do? I don't know, right? What I want you to do is I want you to measure everything. I want you to run real campaigns. One of the things that small business owners do not do enough or as much as they should is run actual campaigns. You just post the post, right? You're just like, I'm just living my life. I'm just gonna post this. There's no beginning, middle, or end. We all know in our favorite brands what the campaigns are, don't we? We know when Dunkin' added avocado toast for no reason. I don't know. How do you feel? We'll talk about that later, right? It was a campaign. All the signage changed, right? They switched it out. They ran it for a specific time. They determined it only made sense for this worked and this didn't work, and then miraculously some products disappear, right? Because the campaign didn't work. Small business owners tend not to do that. We tend not to have conversations with our agencies about the campaign that we want to run. Because there's no beginning, middle, and end, we don't know what's working and what's not. And that's when we spend a lot of money we do not have. So I need you to begin to roll things out and recognize that everything is a test. Just Do It from Nike stuck. It could have been something else if it didn't, right? Everything that we know now is a test. Every brand, we're gonna send it to market. We're gonna invest in it. We're gonna see how it goes. And like Stephen said, if it doesn't work, if the people tell you it doesn't work, right? If your right people in the right room say adjust this, then you have to make some changes. You have to make some motion, but you need to actually run the tests. I need you to assign a length of time. Some of you have been running the same campaigns not knowing if they work since the beginning of time, okay? I need you to assign some time. No less than 30 days, commit, okay? Multiple dates here, I need you to commit. I need you to evaluate the day parts in which you are posting your content, in which things go up. I need you to review your language and your copy. I need you to be specific, and dare I ask, I need you to be patient. I know that's the hard part, right? I posted it yesterday, why aren't I selling more cookies? No one saw it, right? The repetition in the space. I need you to read the data. I need you to go in the back end and read that data. It's so confusing. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. I need you to know what you are dealing with so you can repeat what works. And this is how we're gonna do it. I need you to take note of this engagement. Again, this is for the folks that aren't my analytic folks. This is the Cheldon version of the simplified space. This is, if I spoke to my analytic friends, they'd be like, Cheldon. I mean, who are you speaking to? I'm like, I'm speaking to people who are about to get to work, is who I'm speaking to. I'm not speaking to people in a level in which you will not understand. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to focus on engagement. I need you to focus on people who are involved with your content. Again, conversations lead to conversions. We want to create as many conversations online as we can, okay? So I want you to jump into the back end, okay, of your WordPress, of your Wix, in your websites, which we'll talk about in a moment. We'll also talk about all of your Facebook, your Instagram. Again, you need to know, because when our agencies come to you and they're ready to take you to the next level, I need you to have an understanding as to what you are currently dealing with. I need you to know the numbers of followers and fans you have and where they're coming from. I need you to understand your likes, not be prisoner to them. I need you to understand your comments, right? I need you to understand the powerful share. And let me explain to you the situation as far as, and you guys are probably living this too. To like something is a commitment, yeah? How many of you are on social media? Right. Now there are things, trust me, and I want you to hear me out. Are there things that you see on social media that you like, but you don't like? Yeah, right? You see it, you like it, but there's no cardio, right? You're not involved, right? You're not giving them the like, but you like it. You are at home in your business being like, no one likes my stuff. And that's a lie. That's a lie. They didn't engage in that way, but that doesn't mean they didn't see it, and that doesn't mean they didn't even like it, right? We got things to do. But you have to measure it. So your likes, your comments. Again, there was so much cardio for a like. A comment is like literally running that 5K, right? If you were even a comment, you're like, okay, how many emojis? How many emojis? How much do I absolutely love it? How many exclamation points? There's a lot that's involved in leaving a comment. And if you share it, I mean, we might as well be engaged. If you are sharing someone's comment, you are like, I am committed to this message, right? So think about that as it relates to the actual operation, the funnel that we talked about earlier, right? You absorb the content, you enjoy it, then you like it, then you comment, then you share, right? See this link, buy this, right? I need you to evaluate what your weeks look like. I need you to evaluate the time of the day. I need you to track your participation weekly and monthly, and then repeat what works. I need you to repeat what works. I need you to look at as many angles of this as you possibly can. This is a proper way, especially for those novice out there, a proper way for you to start. And then you can align goals that are realistic based on what you can bring to the table based on what this is. Understand the engagement of your consumer because you've identified that persona. Understand what that person is going to say, what they're going to bring to the table, because you know how many likes or comments if they dare to share it. You have the ability to create your list for the grocery store. You have the ability to be able to move forward in a positive way. I am confident that you can put this together. I'm confident that you can get your content creation from where it is today into more of a rhythm. I'm confident that you can look at your social spaces and what you develop, whether it be blog posts or building out your website, and be able to do so with clarity. Some of you may be thinking, hey, Sheldon, I have a lot of stuff going on. I need help organizing all my stuff. How many of you have a lot of stuff? I have a lot of stuff, right? Your business has a lot of layers, and you're really confused as to how to organize those layers. One of my favorite stores doesn't have a problem with this. How many of you have been to Target? Yeah, it's my happy place. It's beautiful. One thing Target does do is make me spend too much money, but what it doesn't do is get me lost, right? Because everything is in a respective aisle. They are selling bananas and lawnmowers, and I know where each of those are. And if not, some wonderful angel in a maroon shirt comes and saves me, right? That's how it happens. Because everything is in a respective aisle. What I want for you guys to do is to be Target. I want you to make it easy for people to find what you want them to find. I want you to organize your content. Not because I'm trying to torture you, not because you are going to be the next TikTok sensation, but because you want people to buy what it is that you have. Because you want to make it as easy as possible for conversations to become conversions. Hi. Oh, you have a question? Oh, yes. Hi.
So once we've identified what we don't know what to do, how do we figure out who to hire to do it? The agent, we do agent.
Yeah. Oh. I don't know. Let me see if I can find somebody that can help you. John. So the question was, now that we figured it out, because now you're a rock star, right? Now you got the bullet points. Your pen was on fire. You made it make sense. Now you're like, okay, who do I give this roadmap to at this point? And that's where we all come in. That's where Tag comes in. I think there's another mic up here. Are we going to do the panel now? Yeah.
Now a good time to just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, do you guys have you have questions? You have questions, right? Or do we?
Why don't Steve?
Yeah, why don't we come up?
And Sheldon stay up there in front, grab a mic, and we have a mic for whoever's going to ask questions.
And then we can share.
We'd like to come because we want it on the recording.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Yeah.
And so I think that, are you on?
No, but I can borrow it.
Yeah. Let me just do it. There we go.
Thanks.
Would you mind standing in the middle? I just want
Of
to
course.
know how to get picked up.
Will I mind standing in the middle? Twist my arm. All right, there. I'm so shy. I'm like,
So we have a half an hour for Q&A. So don't.
Okay, perfect.
Ask
You're probably gonna ask you a
all those
question.
questions and you're like, oh, is it?
Yes.
My question failed.
Well-
No, ask the question. Lunch is coming at noon.
Woo!
And I'll answer that last one.
Yeah.
So obviously, of course, if you need help finding a great agency partner, give us a shout. We'd be happy to help you out. But in terms of doing it yourself and trying to identify for yourself who might be a good fit, there's lots of good things to look at. I mean, First I'll give you the textbook stuff, which is true, right? Yes, look at case studies. Yes, look at references. But beyond that, one of my first big tips on this is ask who specifically you would be working with at that agency and get to know that person, not the salesperson, not the CEO, although you definitely want to know ownership as well. That's really tip number 2. But find out who you'd specifically be working with. Speaking of the CEO, I find that, let's say you are dealing with a salesperson at that agency, or even if you are meeting that project or account manager you'll be working with, do a little research on the CEO, see if you can find some video, get a feel for their flavor. Because ultimately, the relationship you have will be with that project manager, to be clear, but it's the old kind of like the fish rots from the head down thing. Mm-hmm. If you don't like the flavor of the CEO that you're seeing, that should tell you a lot about the culture of the organization. So those are a couple tips off the top of my head. I probably have a million more, I just have to think of them.
Yeah, I think that if you have now determined these key fundamentals, you can look and see where your needs are, right? What you're capable of doing yourself, and what all of the above that you want to give to someone else. But you are then in turn, when you're sitting down and you're having these, conversations, that in some cases, again, you didn't get into business to do this. So there is a sense of, without any, disrespect at all, where you are feeling insecure in a meeting where someone is using words that you don't understand for a lot of budget in which you have to spend and allocate, right? So being able to be prepared and say, these are my goals. This is what I would like to see. They can combat that and say, well, I suggest you do this, but being prepared is the best way. And if you look at your original goals and you search for agencies, when you definitely talk to TAG, but when you're searching for agencies that really are able to search, to be able to fill what you need, what you assume you need in this moment. And that will help move the conversation along and help TAG get you the agency that you need. That make sense?
Anything specific on that, Steve?
Not that answer.
One other tip that came to mind as Sheldon was talking, and that is this idea of jargon. I'm a big believer in that if you're going to hire an agency to help support you, you really want to, yes, obviously you want to understand what they're doing, but I feel it's important that there's, again, I'm going to use the word culture, of them wanting you to understand what they're doing.
100%.
And taking that a step further, if they say, sure, we'll explain this process to you, and, they're talking, and I use some of these words but broke them down.
Yeah, of course.
Nurture this, funnel that, persona this, but they're not taking the time to make sure you're following along, they're understanding. Huge red flag.
Or giving you a ton of acronyms.
Right.
Oh.
That's about them showing off.
Yeah.
And not about
their own ego.
caring about you.
Yeah.
So that's another one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
For any nonprofits,
Ooh, love them.
are there key differences in terms of an agency you would look for, or identifiers that would indicate that these people understand
100%.
that segment differently than, say, someone who's obviously a for-profit entity?
I do a lot of work with nonprofits, and there are specialist agencies. We talked about this during my presentation, which feels like yesterday.
Yeah, right. I know.
Generalist agencies. I would do anything for everyone, no matter what you need, we got. But then you have those firms that specialize in nonprofit or in giving campaigns or
restaurants,
fundraising or like restaurants. So look for those shops that have that experience. And like John was saying, they have case studies, are there references, are they leveraging their success stories as a way to get you in, and to have those conversations with the CEO. And Sheldon said it during her presentation. Google them.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, what comes up on that first page? Are they writing for Nonprofit Quarterly? Are they writing for these publications? Are they loud within the industry?
Yep.
If they are, that's a pretty good indication that they know what they're doing within that specific industry.
Yeah. And then they have relationships within that space. I mean, as the majority of you in various industries know, there's a conference for everything. There are experts for everything, right? And those that are truly invested in that industry specifically will have relationships that will benefit you from those respective industries. And we all know what it's like to talk to people who get us, right? So whether you're obsessed with Harry Potter or Harry Styles, when you sit and you talk to somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, did you see the last movie? It feels different. Right? So to work with an agency that doesn't understand your language, it really sets you back, but you're spending the money on that time that's being sent back. So just a thought.
Also, if you're a nonprofit and you're not familiar with the Google Grant Program, by the way, key tip, comes up from time to time, Google will give you up to $10,000 in free ad spend just by going through an approval process, and you get all that visibility at no cost through Google on a recurring basis as well. So that's key. And you would want an agency that knows their way around that grant program if you're looking to hire someone.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
That 10,000 can go pretty
right, like click.
That's right.
Any other questions? Oh.
Hi, I'm in the financial business, and while I understand and I can follow along most of the concepts and terms that you're going through here, I'm having a little bit of a hard time internalizing it in terms of my business and how I would wrap around the business that I'm in.
Yeah, I can help.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've got some
Yeah,
too.
for sure. Oh, yeah, well,
Go ahead.
You are an authority in what it is that you do, right? And whether it's, what would you say your concentration is? Family, extended plans? What types of people do you help
I'm
the most?
an insurance specialty banker.
Okay, And the segment of your business is B2B, families, B2B. And so I would position yourself in the content space, and then I'll pass it along, as an authority in that space. I would tell stories about why you're doing what you're doing and how it has helped other people. And then for a consultation, please kick here as it relates to your fourth and your ask. You have to be a storyteller in this because people are looking for individuals that they know, like, and trust to be able to refer and have conversations about in their absence. And because how long have you been doing this?
30 years.
I think you have stories to tell.
Yeah.
I think you have stories to tell, and we need to hear them, right? Because as I peruse around, I want to be able to say, okay, this is a seasoned professional that's going to take care of me. When I give them my money, they're going to take care of it. When I call them, they will call me back. But there needs to be breadcrumbs that say that online. There needs to be things in your absence that show the pedigree of the work that you have done.
Social proof.
Yeah, social proof.
Yeah. So
I hope that helps.
It's funny because we said a lot of similar, if not same things, but in different ways from different angles, right? And so to give you the real, or my spin on it, which is going to sound very similar, right? So remember the spectrum, right? My ugly spectrum.
Stop
right?
it. Stop.
You need trust is going to be key because to your typical person, they're going to see your service as fairly undifferentiated. Right? So you need to be the factor, or your team
100%.
needs to be the factor that does the differentiation.
100%.
And so while that may be somewhat implied, what I'm saying is you really need to lean into that. Because if you don't, you're undifferentiated and you're not going to make a difference.
Bless you.
It also, suggests that it's not an easy decision to make, right?
Yeah.
Making this decision is a big commitment for any organization that hires you. And so you need to really think through that long, elongated sales funnel. So for the woman selling cookies, again, the sales funnel is about top funnel awareness, brand affinity, storytell, close, retain. For you got to think, again, long, elongated process. So first bring them in from similar things, brand affinity, storytelling. But once you have them in the funnel, you do want to start to differentiate on very rational, specific, detail-oriented things. You just have to understand they don't want to hear you differentiate on rational, detail-oriented things until you first cast the hook with storytelling and creating brand affinity, so on and so forth. And it would also, just to say one more thing, again, that funnel, you have to think through at different stages of their buyer's journey, they're going to have different specific asks and pain points. So as tedious as it might sound, you've been doing this for so long, you know this like the back of your hand, sit down and map that out. When they're early in the buying process, what are the questions they ask and what content can I create to answer those questions
100%.
effectively? They're mid-funnel. How do those questions change? What content's going to be best? And this word hasn't been mentioned yet today, but format. I talked about
that.
Right message, right person, right time. I like to add right format. Because, it might be when they're mid-funnel, maybe it's not time for a white paper.
Right.
Maybe it's time for YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe, when they're top funnel, it's probably the other way around, frankly. When they're top funnel, it's time for YouTube. Keep it light, keep it short, make it accessible.
Podcast.
Right. When they're mid-funnel, that's when you can get more in depth, flex a little bit on your true expertise, not just the social proof factor, but actually spell it out, long form articles, so on and so forth. Again, just to close it, what's the right type of content at the different stage of their buyer's journey in the right format? That should go a long way in helping you out.
Give them your highlight reel, your greatest hits.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Hey, hi. I heard you earlier saying that you do not know what you do not know and you do not learn everything. Right?
Yes.
So what would you do when you know that you don't know, but you know that there's nothing that stops you from learning?
Right.
Which is where most of our problems are, right?
Right.
Rabbit hole.
Right. It is the rabbit hole, but we are, even being here at 8 a.m., we are disciplined humans, right? We are outnumbered by people who would never be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. Do you understand what I mean? Like, we don't think about, because we are so in the minutia of where we want to go, we don't realize where we are and where we've been. And you are willing, just by asking a question, to find out what you don't know. You are here to be able to know what you don't know. More of this, more of conversations, more of being vulnerable. I have this new product or service and I don't know. The worst and the biggest waste of money is what I did with my sister. I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. When you are literally not fine, right? You don't know how to build your website. You don't know how to execute social media. Why are you torturing yourself in the unknown? Pick up the phone, send an email. We're here for you to answer your questions. And there's so many qualified individuals that are out waiting, but you need to really reach out, be comfortable in the unknown, and find a safe place to be able to bring what you don't know.
So what is the biggest difficulty when you find in storytelling?
That I find?
Yep.
I think that, again, that fake it till you make it. You guys want to pretend to be someone, and I say this to my students because they're the biggest baloney servers of the world. If you look at a young person's LinkedIn account, you haven't been on the planet long enough to do what you're saying that you're doing. You have
15 years in metaverse.
Right. Oh, like metaverse. Oh, please, I can't. NFTs. That's a whole other meeting. But they put that they want to be a director, but they have directed no one. They want to be a manager, but they have managed nothing, right? And so for me, I say to them, you're applying for jobs. Well, why don't I just give it a try? Why don't I just apply for the job and see what happens? Because now you've become a liar, right? Now you've wasted the human resources person's time by having to sift through your fiction. As opposed to, I have coordinator experience, I would like to be a coordinator. That is real, right? People come as they are. I may want somebody with 30 years experience, and I know that to be true because you've put the breadcrumbs out there that that's who you are. Somebody who's brand new, and there might be some of you out there that are just starting your business, there's something wonderful about working with people who are fresh and new. You don't have to pretend that you've done something for 20 years if you haven't. I just started this business. I'd love for you to come into my yoga studio. I'd love to support you. I'm so excited. I know nothing about yoga. You didn't even give me a chance, right? To meet you.
There's one word, Sheldon, that has not come up, which I'm absolutely surprised.
What?
Authentic.
I know, I'm trying not to say it. It's a problem. I'm like, the A word. Be authentic.
Be your authentic self.
Absolutely. It's exhausting to lie. It's exhausting to pretend to be someone else, right?
George Costanza.
Right, George. I mean, legend. Yeah, please. It's exhausting.
I think I have a take on this as well. Question, actually reiterate the question because I want to make sure I'm addressing it succinctly.
When I say
storytelling,
what do you hear?
When you say what?
Help.
Okay.
Help him.
So I'm going to give a take on this, tell me if this is right. If I'm talking to a brand and they're trying to figure out, trying to establish like where they even need help, or if they don't know what they don't know, to your point, right? How do they know what to ask for? Is that along the right lines? Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
So one of the things that we look at, which I feel is quite unique, and I think gets right to the heart of your question, is what capabilities do you have in-house? And what makes this unique is I found that a lot of agencies, not to rip on agencies, this is natural, but they tend to recommend what it is they do best, right? So it's like, hey, what should I do for my brand? SEO agency says, have you looked at SEO? It's amazing, right? Branding agency says, we need to take down this site, completely rebuild it, right? They can't help but be a little biased towards what they're grading, right? So since we have the luxury of being really objective, we represent 200 agencies that collectively do everything we think exceptionally well. I usually start with, what are you guys really good at?
Yep.
What do you have in-house? How strong is that? You've got an intern doing social. Is he or she good? If not, let me know, right? Okay, we're good at SEO. Well, guess what? SEO has a lot of different departments to it. The backlink portion, the content portion, the technical portion. Which segment of SEO are you good at? So the first thing I would do as a business owner, maybe before you go out and seek help, is kind of audit clearly what are your marketing strengths and weaknesses, and don't beat around the bush about it. You're not helping yourself by not being straightforward with that prospective agency partner or partners about where you're weak and where you're strong and where you can fill in the gaps and pick up slack. It'll also help you get your scope of work and your costs down if you're real clear on those things.
For sure. That's great. What do you think? Yeah, that was great.
Hi, I'm Shelly. I'm the founder and CEO of Milling Roots,
Hi.
and it is actually a marketing agency.
Yay!
We do focus on brand art. I know, it's so fun.
I love it. I love my people.
Nice.
Give me more. But we focus on that brand architecture, like we were talking about, and marketing strategy.
Yeah.
The question that I have for you,
Yeah.
and maybe everyone here can, can talk this a little bit too.
Yeah.
What do you say to clients that come to you and they don't have patience, or they want to have immediate ROI, and they don't want to go through that brand strategy process? Even though they want to have that brand authority and they want to have that thought leadership strategy, but they're like, yeah, but the brand is fine, I just want to get to my ROI.
Right.
What do you say to clients when they say that to you?
You want to go? You go first. You give it to them, and then I'll soft serve. I knew it. I knew he was going to say it. I was like,
if you don't have the patience to do it correctly the first time, I don't want to spend my time being frustrated with you. And I want to be excited when the client calls.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to have to say, shit, the client's calling me.
Right.
Talk my face off about why they're not getting ROI on a social post yesterday or whatever it is. Not worth the time.
I think what it seems you do well, and what I know we do well, is that we set the level of expectation, right? We set the level of expectation. If you want your children's children to eat off of this business, it is not going to happen in 2 months. That's just the truth of it, right? And so let's just think about, okay, what is it gonna take? Again, going back to being realistic. What do you have? And that dollar amount may be $200. And us as an agency or us as this platform, there's a lot of things that I can't do that cost too much money, right? But then I go find the resources that make sense. But I know how much you cost. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I need to do. And then I get my ducks in order. I plan my list so I can come back to you and say, now I'm ready. Say, now I have gathered all my information. I've saved the resources. I've allotted enough time. And this goes for all of you. Look at where you want to go, again, that tattoo sticker space, and set a plan to make that happen. And then afford yourself the ability to find the right people to get you there. You deserve a business that makes an impact. You deserve a business that takes care of you, your family, and your children's children. That's going to take time. But for us as professionals to let you know that that's going to take time, there's a lot of people out there in the World Wide Web that are guaranteeing you instant gratification. And that is the biggest red flag. If you ever see anybody in that space, they are just bait and switching, because nothing good happens overnight. There is no such thing as an overnight success. You just heard about them yesterday, but there is no such thing as an overnight success. So I definitely want to connect. We'll be able to figure it out. But patience, please.
Can I take that fat pitch?
Yes.
All right, so I'm chomping a bit on this one.
Yeah.
I feel like Johnny Practical today, by the way.
It's good, Johnny.
Like that's my role, I think.
I like that. I like that.
Johnny Practical. So, at risk of being self-promotional, my framework, I think, speaks directly to your point. So Stephen said, goodbye. And what he means by that is, from the point of the agency, you probably are better served just saying, this isn't going to work.
It's not going to work.
From the point of the buyer, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, my framework says, if you don't want to take the time to invest your time or money into doing the things that are going to build trust, then you're going to have to lean into the other side of the spectrum, which is do the things you can control.
Labor.
So for every business owner, again, that's like, I'm not willing to pay this $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 sticker price on this brand audit. I just don't see why it matters. Again, I get it because you want to see some type of results before you make that type of commitment. But what you have to realize, and this is really my point, is you have limited the marketing tactics that are going to work for you. And what you've really limited that to is buying ads. Because that's the only thing where you can carve out $500, get exposure, and get some traffic. What other options do you have?
Yeah, and it's a process. And I think you're going. Like I need it. You're going to pay regardless. So you have to determine whether you want to pay with your time, which is maybe less expensive for your budget, which is fine. We're not saying that you have to spend, and that's why I think the latter half in the presentation that I presented was what you can do today. These are things that you can do to size yourself up so when you are ready to really engage in an agency to help you take it to the next level, that doesn't mean you can't make money today. That doesn't mean you can't build clients. That doesn't mean you can't have conversations that lead to conversions and transactions. You don't need to have multi-million-dollar agencies in order to sell things. We all know that. We're talking about how do we create and maximize what it is that you're doing in order to take it to the next level. Some of you may be at your current level for some time until you can, be appropriate for you to get to the next level. Some of you are chomping at the bit right now to talk to John and Steve to be like, okay, we're ready to turn it on. We're ready to put in the time, the investment, and the patience. But that doesn't mean one or the other that you don't get to move forward. From this point on, we all are moving forward from this point on. And it could be jumping into a larger agency and really creating a strategic plan, or us going back and really creating a content creation strategy that we can manage internally. But the goal out of this conversation today is to ensure that you are moving forward so you could get closer to what you want. And I hope that we helped you to do that today.
Hi, you guys talked a little bit about the word jargon. And I make sure
Everybody hates jargon.
I understand one of them. Can one of you explain the persona again? Is that your prospective
it's me.
clients?
Yes.
Is that
your client or your audience or anyone that is going to have the conversation and that leads to the transaction or conversion. At least that's how I view it. And
the second part of that, I just want to be sure
Yeah.
that's what I understood. The second part of that is when you are like a B2B, which is business to business, correct?
Yep, you're right.
Jargon again.
I love her. She's great.
The persona that you're looking for, sometimes, and I thought of this when this gentleman over here spoke, like what platforms do you find your businesses on? Like how do you know where to be posting things?
Fair.
Because
That's a fair question.
In some industries, like you wouldn't be finding them on Facebook.
Right,
100%.
100%.
Not on Instagram. Like is everybody on LinkedIn? Like what other platforms are there when you're more, or do you just do that SEO?
Yes, you're good. You're doing it. You are doing it. See? First page of Google.
So it's just the platforms part, and I get,
You go ahead.
your content and your website is one, but where do you engage?
Yeah.
Well, from a brand strategy perspective, my biggest thing is, and I recommend this to all my clients, everyone I ever consult with, is ask your audience. Just ask them, where do you hang out? Where do you want to consume content?
Yeah.
They're going to tell you.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you, we're all on LinkedIn. We hang out on Quora.
Right.
Or we hang out on wherever, a Facebook group, this specific Facebook group. So wherever they tell you that they're hanging out, go there and go to them. And so I always recommend for every business, like survey your audience once a month, incentivize them, put a $10 gift card out there, or pick somebody around, or free products or whatever, and ask them what products to make, where kind of content to put out there, where to put that content, how many times they want to hear from you. They will tell you all those things.
For
you just need to not be shy or
for sure.
brand or think we're going to alienate them by doing so, because they will respond.
They'll appreciate it.
So first, a quick clarification. From my perspective, your different audience segments are just that, your segments. What technically makes it a persona is a marketing exercise by which you assign a fictitious name to internalize
Nancy.
Nancy, exactly. So that's technically a persona. Otherwise, we're talking about a segment, really.
Yeah.
And then in terms of where the audience and where to find them, I mean, I'm actually going to give you more credit than you're giving yourself. I think with a little research and digging and taking the time, you can identify more or less where they are. Like Steven said, if not, ask around. My spin on this will be, perhaps the bigger question is, where shouldn't you be wasting your time?
Oh, that's good.
Right?
That is so good.
So you're like, you know what? LinkedIn, definitely. Facebook or Twitter, well, let's say LinkedIn, definitely. Facebook, maybe. Twitter,
Right. Maybe not. Maybe you can hang out with me on TikTok.
Now, conversely, that was myself with Twitter. Like, I couldn't really justify why I was doing it. And recently, we're pivoting all tags Twitter to talk about predominantly blockchain.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to do a lot of work in helping blockchain companies find agencies. Quick shameless plug.
I know, sure.
And we found that that's where they are. So we're doing pretty much all marketing within the blockchain sphere on Twitter, and then using our other channels to talk to a different persona or audience segment.
I'm going to piggyback on that one. Part of my career I spent in the AV world, but like brand experiences. Yeah. So like screens and cool lobby settings, like a Comcast building downtown Philly. AV industry is very vocal on Twitter, and they do a thing every Sunday morning called AV in the AM. And there's usually 4 or 5 questions every Sunday at 8 a.m. They get millions of impressions, and they get so much visibility through a random industry on Twitter. Meanwhile, they're all on the other platforms, but from a audience building perspective and really understanding the questions and chatter that's going on, Twitter can be an amazing opportunity to gather some insights. And I've found it's easy to start conversations with people on Twitter. Like people that you never thought that you could have a conversation with. You can just kind of slide into their DMs and they might get back to you, or you can just respond to them on Twitter and they might have that conversation more so than any other platform. So I wouldn't discount it, but I like, John, what you said about really understanding what platforms not to invest in. That list is a lot longer than the ones you should invest in.
For sure. And also, let's get specific. Right? I keep saying the conference for the conference for the conference. Like, I am a member of ProMax, which is marketers within television and ad entertainment. That's a specific, I mean, you can't get any more specific than that. There are associations and groups and organizations that literally house your client base. Right? And then communicating with them on social, advising your agency to dive in, to participate in those conversations. The persona is Nancy from Human Resources at that organization. Where is Nancy? What organization is she a part of? What is she watching? What is she listening to? And how you can participate. The more specific you get, the better it is for you to build a relationship and become an authority within that industry. We all know what it's like to be up here and be so-called marketing experts, or to be called upon in the food and beverage space because you've opened X amount of restaurants. They might not necessarily be able to stand up here, but you can truly begin to find your own niche in that way and actually become an expert and thought leader in that space. Will in turn get you in front of rooms to have these conversations, and then your agency can push out that as content. So get really, really specific on your industry of choice and dive into that, if that makes sense.
Find your tribe.
Yeah, 100%.
Find 100%. Your tribe. They're out there.
Time for one more question.
Fun.
Now we're getting questions, by the way.
I know, right? See, well, we're hot.
Questions spawn questions.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it works.
We love it.
You spoke about developing a relationship with a marketing agency and sort of starting at ground zero.
Yeah.
If you have a small business, what does that look like? Take the finances out of it. Everybody has a different budget, but what does that look like? How long can you expect that timeline to be?
Interesting. That's a good question.
In a different mindset about how fast they're ready to move.
That's great expectation. That's good.
So what does that look like from the marketing side?
So you might hate my answer, but I'm actually going to start by saying you kind of can't take the finances out of it.
Okay.
And this is something I need to push brands on, because whenever budget comes up, and it always has to, the answer is, well, we don't know, it's not really defined.
You know how much money you have.
You tell me what it should cost, and again, I totally get it. But in reality, where you should be putting your dollars has a lot to do with how much of them you have.
Right.
Because if you're a small business and you've got, $500,000 to market your restaurant this year, maybe $200,000 to market your restaurant this year, that's a lot different than if you have $20,000 or $2,000. So actually, finance is a big part of it. I got a lot more to say, but go ahead.
Coupled with finance, like, what's the goal? Too, like,
yeah.
What do you need to get out?
Yeah.
Customers, like,
yes.
Like, Sheldon, be specific. Are you looking to get 1,000 more customers?
Yeah.
100,000 products off the shelf, whatever that goal is.
This is your space.
The financial discussion is really going to dictate the type of engagement you get into with an agency.
Yep, and broken record time here. But again, if you can't, if you're a small business and you're really, maybe you don't quite believe in some of these channels. I don't really believe in Facebook, or I don't really believe in SEO. If you need to see results before you're going to double and triple down, you unfortunately need to lean into paid media. So let's say, for example, you're really reluctant on this stuff and you don't have a lot of money and you decide to completely redo your brand, it's never a bad idea to redo your brand. Just understand that there's going to be no short-term ROI on that.
Right.
Or there's unlikely to be a lot of short-term ROI on it. Emphasis on the short-term. Long-term, there's ROI in all of these things.
Right.
So a lot of it has to do, again, I often say on calls, what's your comfort level for pain? That's what I say when they ask me about SEO. What's your comfort level for pain? Because if you're not prepared to go through content writing and technical fixes and all of which bring you $0 in revenue for, I don't know, 5-6 months. And I love SEO, that's my background. If you can't stomach that, that shortens the window. So, and then I could talk about this literally forever.
But I'm so sorry.
Oh, but so maybe my last point would be, you should also, just because you can't stomach a lot of pain, as I call it, you want short-term gratification results and you lean into ads, that also doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you should be.
Yeah.
It's just a function of that's maybe all your option is if you can't deal with the investment side of this. And I don't just mean investment of time, I mean when you invest to build something that takes on a life of its own. If you can't afford to do that, you're limiting your options to what you can really do from a marketing skill set. So you should probably be challenging yourself to what type of budgets can I really come up with? What's this really worth to me? And then you can start to work backward from metrics.
Yeah.
What's the average order value? What's your lifetime value of a customer? How much can I afford to carve out to actually get that customer? What does that look like over time? And that can start to justify some of these bigger picture investments. That's actually the real way to go about it.
For sure.
Well, let's have a big round.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I have nothing. I'm good. My notes.
Danny Apex Productions.